contradiction and to regain our independence. While there have been some bona fide struggles to resolve the contradiction, there have also been reactionary neocolonial struggles waged by internal enemies loyal to the oppressor nation and culture that have tried time and time again to subvert and control our destiny for the benefit of the capitalists. They've come among us, always imposed from above, stirring up emotions and giving lip service to progress, equality, justice, and prosperity. These always within the colonial confines of the oppressor's arrangements, and none collectively ever materialize, because without a resolution of the fundamental contradiction, that is the freeing of our productive forces from U.S. imperialism and the governing of our own affairs, we'll remain a minority within the American system as opposed to a majority in our own, and subjected to the established bourgeois social contract, i.e. colonialism, neo and post. We can parade all through the empire with black congressmen, black mayors, black governors, black police chiefs, black Supreme Court justices, hell, even a black president. And absolutely nothing will alter the genocidal relationship that governs our national oppression here, because the blacks are part of the colonial apparatus. They have made a strategic alliance with the capitalist imperialists to act as go-betweens in our oppression and exploitation. This is a conscious class stand. The black petty bourgeois is not innocently confused, like, say, Mrs. Jackson across the street is, about our national oppression, about the existence and subjugation of New Africa. They are well-read, have traveled in our experience. They've just chosen sides against us and in favor of our historical enemies. And the sooner we recognize and internalize this, the better off we'll be. Black ain't nothing but a color. As a designation of our national identity, it has played out. It is a superficial understanding at best and a foolish and dangerous analysis at worst. We have no collective control over the qualitative factors which determine our lives. We do not, in other words, control our destiny, not as a people or a state. The book is Stand Up, Struggle Forward by Sanyika Shakur.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Happy Super Tuesday. Get out and vote. Amen. Boy, what a day. By the way, yesterday, we opened the show yesterday with a poll, and, Bernie kind of walked away with it. Following that, Nigel, our webmaster, put a poll up on YouTube and kept it up throughout the show, and it got 6,870 votes. Joe Biden got 475 votes, that's 7%. Michael Bloomberg got 135 votes, that's 2%. Elizabeth Warren got 270 votes, 4%. No Preference got 200 votes, that's 3%. And Bernie Sanders got 5,790 votes, 85% of the votes on our YouTube poll yesterday. For what it's worth, it's fascinating stuff. So Donald Trump, first of all, he has known since November, if he's paying attention and listening to his security people, and since December, if he's watching Fox News, and that's his only source of news, that there was this coronavirus outbreak in China and that it was spreading fast, and it was not going to be something that could be easily contained like SARS and MERS. Those viruses are not only much harder to catch, but they also have a much higher death rate. And so, it's frankly, as a result of that, it's easier to identify people who have it and lock areas down. But mostly because it's nowhere near as contagious as this COVID-19. So first, Trump ignored it. And, like I said, he's known for 4 months. The National Security Council and Department of Homeland Security each had, when Trump came into office, specific divisions to deal with epidemic diseases like this. And because those were offices in these two agencies that were created, or divisions or departments or whatever they're called, that were created by Barack Obama, Donald Trump said, well, that was Obama. We've got to do away with that. And so he closed them both, fired their people. So we have nobody in the Department of Homeland Security looking out for us in the context of epidemic diseases. And we have nobody in the National Security Council looking out for the security of the United States and our people in the context of contagious diseases. And Trump has done absolutely nothing. I mean, he's known about this for 4 months. And it's just insane. I mean, there was a New York City physician who was on CNBC. I believe it was last night. Might have been early this morning. I saw, we caught this clip of it. And, this guy is like seriously PO'd. I mean, he is like major upset. This was on CNBC's Squawk Box, and his name is Dr. Matt McCarthy. And yeah, this was yesterday afternoon or late yesterday. And he's trying to get test kits. Here's a clip of what he had to say. Oh, okay. Well, he said in New York State, the person who tested positive is only the 32nd test we've done in this state. That's a national scandal. He points out in South Korea, health officials have tested over 100,000 people. The U.S., as of February 29th, according to the CDC, had tested 472 people. He says, they're testing 10,000 people a day in some countries, and we can't get this off the ground? I mean, that's how bad it is. And we do need to be doing more testing because, if we're going to try to contain this thing, we need to find the people who are not symptomatic or only minorly ill, but who are spreading the disease to people who are more vulnerable, more vulnerable populations, people who are elderly and people who are not in good health. I got a note from a doctor at the Evergreen Hospital where the first death in the U.S. occurred, just a personal email. And she says, I knew this patient, the guy who died in the Evergreen Hospital, enough to wave when I saw him as an outpatient. She says, thanks for reminding people that the death rate is likely lower as we are not testing the mild cases, only the small number of cases turning up at the hospital. Now, why is that? Well, because we can't get testing. I mean, this is the absolutely crazy thing about all this is, where did my information from Oregon go here? I had a whole pile of this stuff. Oh, here it is on the floor. Sorry. Okay, Oregonians. I mean, this is just the state where I live, right? And our state government now has a daily email that you can subscribe to, where the State Department of Health tells you, here's the update on what we know. That's great. I mean, our governor is being so transparent about this and all this kind of stuff. But still, to date, the state of Oregon, they're guessing right now that between 400 and 1,500 people in this state have the coronavirus. Brad Schmidt, writing for the Oregonian, our local newspaper owned by a New York company, says the advance of coronavirus to a remote town more than 200 miles from Portland means the virus is fairly widespread in our community, but not broad enough to start aggressive containment, Oregon's top medical officer said Monday. But it's not clear how this Umatilla County resident, a casino worker, contracted the disease. And then he goes on to note, to date, Oregon has only tested 28 people. Oregon, since January 24th, has monitored 327 individuals who do not have symptoms, but may have been exposed through close contact. As it stands, the Oregon Health Authority has 1,500 coronavirus test kits. But that's the most we can do. At the current testing rate and the capacity to complete about 80 tests a day. So, question number one is, how is the coronavirus outbreak affecting you? Right? Have you changed any of your habits? Are you avoiding public places? Are you keeping your kids from school? Do you run a business that's been affected by the coronavirus? Are you a healthcare worker? And if so, what are you learning? What are you hearing? Here, this is from a woman in Seattle. This is a Twitter thread. And her Twitter handle is into_the_brush. And she says, I live in Seattle. I have all the symptoms of COVID-19, and I have a history of chronic bronchitis. Since I work in a physical therapy clinic with many patients over 65 years old and with chronic illnesses, I decided to be responsible and get tested. Okay, so here's this woman who's working with elderly people and who has a lot of contact with the public and is in Seattle where, there's been an outbreak and it's spreading apparently. And so she wants to get tested. I mean, this is just, she's trying to be responsible, right? I mean, she's working with a high-risk population, and she's a healthcare worker. And she has symptoms right now. So I called the Corona hotline. I'm quoting from her thread now. I called the Corona hotline. I was on hold for 40 minutes and gave up. So I looked up the CDC in Washington, the state of Washington public health websites. They told me to see a primary care doctor. I called 2 primary care doctors. One told me they don't know where to get testing and that I should not seek out testing. And the other one told me to go to an emergency room or an urgent care center. So I called the urgent care center, and they also had no idea where the tests are, but they told me to call the hospital. I called the hospital. They don't have tests, but they transferred me to the COVID-19 hotline to answer my questions. Since I was transferred on a medical provider line, I actually got through. Progress. The lady on the hotline was very kind and professional and understood my concern, both about my own health and those at my clinic. However, I was told I do not qualify for testing, and I was not given a timeline for info on current resources. So who does qualify? Those who have been out of the country in the last 14 days and those who have contact with one of the few people who have been tested and came up positive. That's it. The only way I can get treated is if my symptoms get so bad I develop pneumonia or bronchitis. I think she means tested. So bad I develop pneumonia or bronchitis, which is very likely in my case. Then I'll be in the ER and I'll be quarantined for several days while waiting for a test and the results to come back. This is all incredibly frustrating because I'm trying to do everything right in a system that punishes moments of weakness like taking days off. It's also scary to know that I won't be able to get help until I need life support. To sum up, this is not contained. Nobody knows what the F is happening. I can't work. Wash your effing hands. And then, there's actually a hashtag, coronavirus Seattle. And then she gives the COVID-19 hotline. But, I mean, this is just an absolute cluster. I mean, well, I shouldn't use that word because that's also a medical word. I mean, it's here in Oregon, the entire state has 1,500 test kits, and we think that we have at least 1,500 people right now who have this virus in this state, which means that if every one of them infects, 2 people or 3 people, and then every one of them infects 2, this is the old chessboard trick, the old Persian king. Yes, thank you very much for giving me the choice of what kind of reward I want for the great job I did for you. Just take a chessboard and put 1 penny on the first square, and then put 2 pennies on the second square, and then 4 pennies on the third square. Just keep doubling it on each square, and I'll take all those pennies. And it turns out it's more pennies than there are grains of sand in the ocean. I mean, this is exponential growth. This is how it happens. So, anyhow, a lot going on here, and I also want to share with you some clips from some of our previous revolutionary presidents like John Kennedy calling for a revolution in America, Franklin Roosevelt calling for health care and free health care and free college for everybody, and saying no to war billionaires. Harry Truman talking about what the Republicans are up to. We've got some of those for you too. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
It's 17 minutes past the hour. We'll be back with your calls in just a moment, and more of the news of the day and some of those clips. And welcome back. Mike in Lomita, California, listening on KPFK. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Yeah, you asked about what we're doing differently to provide for the virus. I'm going overseas, and the things I'm doing differently on this excursion are that I'm going to be carrying antiviral wipes for, carbon surfaces on the plane.
Right.
And also leaving behind food for the pets. And
in case you get quarantined?
Well, that's normal procedure, but I'm doubling the amount that I'm leaving behind for the carer, just in case we do get held up.
In addition to carrying those wipes onto the plane, you may want to carry a little plastic baggie to put them in after you've used them.
Oh, yeah.
And then, stick it in your pocket and throw it in the trash later.
By the way, I'm retired from a field where we deal with respiratory patients, and even, back in pre-corona days, there was a definite limitation in the amount of isolation rooms we have.
Right.
We even had some of these young docs with training wheels trying to get suspected tuberculosis patients to cough in the sputum sample for the lab in the room with other patients.
Yikes.
Yes, indeed. So the system, believe me, will be, if this is highly infective, it'll be stretched to the limit and beyond.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Wow. Okay. Mike, thanks a lot for the information. That's
Sure.
a good one. Good talking to you. Blaine in Thousand Oaks, California, listening on KPFK. Hey, Blaine. Whoop, Blaine just hung up. Sometimes people try to take me off mute or hold or whatever, and boom, off they go. Chaz in Lakewood, Washington. Hey, Chaz, what's up?
Nazadrovia, comrade,
Yes.
is another glorious day in Trumpistan, is it not?
There you go. It is indeed, Chaz.
So what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about coronavirus? Real quick, I want to say, hey, once the new president gets sworn in, Trump is just a guest in the White House, right?
Actually, he leaves the White House after the new president gets sworn in. In fact, he leaves the White House the morning that the new president gets sworn in, if he does it the way that every other president has in the past.
I'd love to see him get frog marched out of there. Anyhow, back to the coronavirus. I am in Washington State, and I'm starting to think, well, how soon are they going to tell us to telecommute? I attend a college. I am also a work study in a state government office. And so I'm wondering how soon they're going to tell us, don't touch the handles, since you can't rotate knobs anymore. You got to, but I wonder if we should have crash bars instead of the traditional handles that they have. Tom, I want to ask you a question. I saw you taking like black raspberry, something like that.
Yeah.
Do you not take multivitamins? I haven't been sick in like years because I take multivitamins.
Well, that's good. I don't take multivitamins. I take a bunch of different herbs, and black elderberry actually was the thing that's effective against the common cold, and that's actually been backed up by science.
Okay.
I don't know if it would be effective against the coronavirus, but the common cold is a coronavirus. But let's not do medical advice based on anecdote and stuff like that. Maybe I should take a multivitamin.
I went on television.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe I should take a multivitamin. But I do take vitamin D and vitamin K, and that's it in terms of vitamins. But Chaz, thanks a lot for the call. I appreciate it. I've taken B vitamins in the past, but it just seems like there's this huge spectrum of vitamins, and the way that I try to get them is by eating a lot of salad and a lot of fruit. We'll be right back. Stick around. Our 1 hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3 hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. We have a special video up over at thomhartmann.com for supporters of our program, and it's about how a letter that the IRS sent out to 3.9 million Americans saved 700 lives. And you're like, wait a minute, the IRS saved 700 lives? How did that happen? Well, it had to do with Obamacare, and it's a fascinating story. And it turns out that this analysis of this IRS mailing was actually the first time that the federal government has done a study that actually proved that people having access to health care produces fewer deaths. For every 1,648 people who got the letter, there was one fewer premature death. I'll explain the whole thing in the video. It's as I said, it's available over at thomhartmann.com for people who are regular supporters of our program, and it is really worth checking out. And it's a great ad, essentially, for our national health care system. Okay, I wanted to share some presidents with you. Saying some of the things that should remind us who the Democratic Party is and what the Democratic Party stands for. Franklin Roosevelt suggested that there should be a second Bill of Rights. He actually wanted to amend the Constitution to make it a right and not a privilege, to have a job, to have housing, to have health care, to have education. Here is Franklin Roosevelt.
The right to a useful and remunerative job in the industry, or shops, or farms, or mines of the nation. The right to earn enough to provide adequate food and clothing and recreation.
There's your $15 minimum wage.
The right of every businessman, large and small, to trade in an atmosphere of freedom from unfair competition and domination by monopolies at home or abroad.
And now we've got
The
monopolies
right of
everywhere.
every family to a decent home.
Housing.
The right to adequate medical care and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health.
Medicare for
The
all.
right to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age and sickness,
Social Security.
and unemployment. Finally, the right to a good education.
There you go. I mean, that was Franklin Roosevelt, right? President of the United, re-elected 4 times. Here's Harry Truman and what he had about the Republicans.
Now I want to say something very important to you about this issue of morality in government. It is just as immoral to use the lawmaking power of the government to enrich the few at the expense of the many as it is to steal money from the public treasury. That is stealing money from the public treasury.
This guy sounding like Bernie.
Legislation that favored the greed of monopoly and the trickery of Wall Street was a form of corruption that did the country 4 times as much harm as Teapot Dome ever did.
He's sounding like Elizabeth Warren.
Private, selfish interests are always trying to corrupt the government in this way. Powerful financial groups are always trying to get favors for themselves. Now, the Democratic administration has been fighting against these efforts to corrupt the powers of government. We haven't always won, but we have never surrendered and we never will.
It's Harry Truman, President of the United States. And,
For all these years, we've been fighting to use our natural resources for the benefit of the public, to develop our forests and our public oil reserves and our water power for the benefit of all.
But the
To raise the
Republicans?
incomes of all our citizens, to protect the farmer and the worker against the power of monopoly.
But where have the Republicans
And
been?
where have the Republicans been in this fight for morality in government? Do they come out and vote with us to keep the special interests from robbing the public? Not at all. Most of them are on the other side. The same thing when you come to the question of the conduct of government officials. The Republicans make a great whoop and holler about the honesty of federal employees. But they are usually the first to show up in a government office asking for special favors for private interests and in raising Cain if they don't get them.
Yeah, think of Betsy DeVos and wanting to privatize our schools.
These Republican gentlemen can't have it both ways. They can't be for morality on Tuesday and Thursday and then be for special privileges for their clients on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah, there's Harry Truman. I mean, I've got a few more clips that I will share with you in a few minutes. We're hitting a break right now, but Franklin Roosevelt, John Kennedy calling for revolution. I mean, the revolutionary, literally the revolutionary core of the Democratic Party has always been with us. We'll be back. And like I said, I think Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, they're not going as far as FDR. They're FDR light. But at least, FDR light is better than...
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
So anyhow, it's Super Tuesday, too. So if you want to talk about politics, give us a shout. Conventional wisdom on Buttigieg dropping out and Klobuchar. Fascinating. I'll talk about that, too.
This is the
Well, it's
Thom
Super
Hartmann
Tuesday, and it's a
Program.
really Super Tuesday, thanks to Mike in San Francisco. He has put up a $50,000 match. Anything you donate up to $50,000 will be doubled today by Mike in San Francisco. God bless you, Mike. Thank you. This is amazing. It's a great day to make a contribution. This is going to be today and tomorrow, by the way. And that your contribution will be matched. So whatever you give, it's going to be doubled. It's also Super Tuesday, the election day, and so we're gonna see how that all plays out, and we'll certainly be talking about that tomorrow. And having conversations that You know, the entire conversation, it seems, on CNN and MSNBC is, what's it going to take to stop Bernie? And oh my God, you know, and the Republic is melting down, you know. And I think we have some reasonable and more rational conversations here and cover, you know, things like the actual history of the Democratic Party and FDR and LBJ and you know, let's go back to our roots and stuff like that. So anyway. Please help out Free Speech TV so that we can continue these kind of conversations. Please call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help. Now is a great time to call and contribute to Free Speech TV. With a $20 gift, you get the Proud Student at Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that, you know, helps people get out the vote. I'm voting RU, and, you know, it's got the Free Speech TV logo on it. Your choice of one or the other of those with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote tote bag, which, you know, for the next, 9 months, 8 months, is going to be pretty cool. And then after that, it's going to be one of those things that, you know, down the road, you'll see people selling them on eBay as mementos of the 2020 election. This is going to be an historic election regardless of who the Democratic nominee is, because the Democratic nominee, is going to be running against, well, you know, that orange thing in the White House. With a $75 gift, you get that tag, you get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug, one of my favorites. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet where we all meet online and talk. With a $120 gift, by the way, I skipped over that and I shouldn't have. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $300 gift, there's the whole Get the Vote Out pack, the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family to let them know about, you know, the various shows on Free Speech TV. You get the Get Out the Vote car magnet, and the Just Effing Vote tote bag, and my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, you get all three of my books, the whole Hidden History collection, suitable for being a gift. Every single one will have an autographed book plate in it, and you know, great to give to friends and neighbors and relatives or birthdays. You know, there's always gift-giving opportunities coming up. That's a $360 gift to Free Speech TV. Or maybe you just like to read them yourself. So I guess I was assuming that many of you already have the books, but and in which case they make great gifts. But if you haven't read them, I think you'll find them very accessible. They're small. They're about 180 pages each, and very readable. And you will learn things that you didn't know, even things that you haven't heard me talk about on this program. They're just great books. I put a lot of work into them. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us, and we'll have a meet and greet here, and then go have some lunch. So those are the premiums for the Free Speech TV drive. But the really important thing is that Free Speech TV needs you. You know, I mean, this is. Free Speech TV continues to exist and has for all these years, almost 2 decades, purely as a result of people who watch Free Speech TV saying, hey, I'm going to help out. And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. And Free Speech TV is a very important television network. So, you know, 2 things, I constantly harp on this, but I think it's really so important. Number one, tell your friends about Free Speech TV. Give them some of the Free Speech TV swag, you know, the goodies that Free Speech TV gives away or has, or, you know, gives very, very cheap, that have, you know, that list which channel we're on Dish and which channel we're on DirecTV, and you know, so that people can easily find, and you know, freespeech.org. I mean, tell people about the website. Which also will tell people how they can find Free Speech TV if they want to watch it on their television. If you know anybody who has satellite TV, if you see a satellite dish on their house, you know, that means that they've got Dish or Direct, which means they've got Free Speech TV, and they probably don't know it. So spread the word. But also, please call now, 877-378-8669. Whatever you give will be doubled. Your $20 gift becomes $40, your $50 gift becomes $100, your $75 gift becomes $150, and on it goes from there. So please call 877-378-8669. Let's make this a super, super Tuesday. Thanks. Coming up this week on the Science Revolution, is the coronavirus about to show us the cost of not having Medicare for all? Former health insurance executive Wendell Potter, public health professor at George Washington University Medical School Dr. Lena Wen, and author of The Coming Plague, Laurie Garrett, all join me for the most up-to-date information on the now pandemic coronavirus. Don't miss it, and check it out wherever fine podcasts are available. So I mentioned the conventional wisdom on Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar is, and then the story that's all over the media, is that this is going to cause all those folks who had been supporting, Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar to immediately move to Joe Biden because they have endorsed Joe Biden. And actually, when you look at the polling, and you look at you ask people who is their second choice if your first choice drops out. Dave Weigel was writing about this in the Washington Post, and he says there's a substantial block of white liberal suburbanites who are seeking a fresh alternative to Biden or Sanders. And if there's a winner in this bracket, it was arguably Elizabeth Warren. Exit polling found her running far stronger with voters who made up their minds in the last few days, getting 11% of those voters while getting just 4% of early deciders. Additionally, Warren's favorability rating among Democratic voters continues to be high. Weigel points out, quote, Warren also came out of the race with the highest favorability ratings of any surviving candidate except for Biden, a 12-point net favorability rating to 8 points for Sanders and 7 points for Buttigieg. So, we'll see how it shakes out. Today is Super Tuesday. People are voting. People are making up their decisions. Interesting kind of quirky, ironic news. A student who shook Mike Pence's hand a couple of days ago is buddies with, classmates with, friends with another student who just got put into quarantine because he's been exposed to the coronavirus. Of course, probably hasn't been tested because, the Trump administration sat on their hands for 4 months and thought, oh, this isn't going to be a problem. It's not going to come here. Rush Limbaugh said it's just the common cold after all. We don't have to worry about that. But back to our revolutionary presidents, then I'm going to pick up your phone calls. But I love these clips. I want to play a couple more clips here. This is John Kennedy in his inauguration in 1960. This is January of 1961, as he is basically calling for a revolution.
We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
And then, of course, LBJ carried on that legacy with the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, and it's just all kinds of stuff there. This is Franklin Roosevelt from a speech in 1936. And Sean, it looks to me like the gain on this is a little low. You may have to turn it up a bit. Here he is.
These economic royalists complain that we seek to overthrow the institutions of America. What they really complain of is that we seek to take away their power.
Sounding like Sanders and Warren?
Our allegiance.
And our allegiance to this country. Listen
and our allegiance to American institutions requires the overthrow of this kind of power.
So here you've got Franklin Roosevelt, basically, going full Bernie Sanders, full Elizabeth Warren, whatever you want to call it. He just, that's it. He continues.
In vain, they seek to hide behind the flag and the Constitution.
Yeah, think of Sean Hannity maybe, or Fox News. But in their blindness,
they forget what the flag and the Constitution stand for.
And then he goes on about what they stand for.
Now, as always, for over a century and a half, the flag, the Constitution, stand against a dictatorship by mob rule and the overprivileged alike.
They stand against a dictatorship by the overprivileged, right? I mean, this is Franklin Roosevelt, president of the United States, elected 4 times.
A dictatorship by mob rule and the overprivileged alike. And the flag and the Constitution stand for democracy, not tyranny. For freedom, not subjection.
There you go. And the subjection that he was talking about in that case was, what he referred to as the economic royalists, the economic tyranny. Here again, Franklin Roosevelt. This was from his inaugural address in 1932, when he was, it was January. It would have been March of 1933 when he was sworn into office. This is what he had to say about this new generation that was rising up, this essentially revolutionary time and principle.
There is a mysterious cycle in human events. To some generations, much is given. Of other generations, much is expected. This generation of Americans has a rendezvous with destiny.
So I think on Super Tuesday whoops, hang on, stop. There we go. Sorry, wrong button. This is, and I've got. Actually, we'll play a few others later on in the program. I really should be picking up your phone calls here. And I was asking, what are you doing with regard to the coronavirus? Also, John in Jeffersonville, Ohio. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Not much, Tom. This is concerning that virus, but
yeah.
My daughter and her husband met because they both are in import-export, and he actually works in Oman 2 weeks, and then he'll fly back to Dallas for 2 weeks, and he's been doing this for a few years.
Uh-huh.
And she flies all over. She just got back from China about 3 weeks ago.
Whoa.
Okay, so they're really, really big into the import-export business. Now, every year they have a big convention. It's called the TPM 20 Conference, and it's the premier conference for international container shipping. Okay, her and her husband, my son-in-law, they just flew out to California for that meeting this weekend and the early part of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, the update said, in light of growing concerns around the COVID-19, we've made the difficult decision to cancel the TPM 20 this year.
Wow.
Okay. So I asked her about that, and she said, yeah. She said, we're parking ships out in the ocean right now, and they're just sitting. And she said the ports are getting hurt. The unions that, come down and unload and this, that, and the other, they're getting hurt.
Yeah.
She said because the supply lines are just, they don't know what's going on until they restart them or get things figured out. And there's going to be an economic hit for that. And it may not hit us right this minute, but it's coming.
Well, I think it is. The Dow is down. Can't see exactly how far down it is right now. Yeah, it's down 400 points right now, and I think and they cut interest rates by a half a point this morning. I mean, it's a huge interest rate cut to try to stimulate the economy. But if there's nothing to buy and people can't go to work, no amount of dropping interest rates is going to cause people to buy new things on credit. I mean, which is really basically how they're trying to stimulate this. John, thanks for sharing that story. It's a good one. I appreciate it. Rocco in Chicago. Hey, Rocco, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the lack of testing kits.
Yeah, the entire state of Oregon has 1,500 of them.
Trump doesn't want to know how many people are sick. He doesn't want to know how many confirmed cases there are. This is a cover-up. He wants to tell everybody he's got it all under control. And the more that are exposed, the more confirmed cases there are, the worse he thinks he looks.
Right, and Governor Cuomo in New York went to a private company and had them make them for New York State because they couldn't get them from the CDC.
This is a cover-up, Tom.
Yeah, I agree.
I really believe it's a way of covering the seriousness of this.
I absolutely agree. First he said it's no big deal. Then he said it was a Democratic hoax. You'll recall he said that in his campaign rally a couple of nights ago, and through the whole thing. I mean, 4 months now he's known that this was coming, and the entire state of Oregon has 1,500 test kits. We've tested 28 people now, and we think we've got 1,500 people who are infected, which means next week we'll have 5,000, which means the week after that we'll have 25. I mean, this is how it goes, and that's just in this state. This little state with only 3 or 4 million people in it. It's got to be freaking out the people in New York. Morris in Long Beach, California. Hey, Morris, what's up?
The Democratic Party. We're going to take it over today, Reverend. We're taking it over today.
I think so. Super Tuesday.
It's a done deal. It's a done deal. Listen, when I went to college 50 years ago, I took an upper division political science class, and I'll never forget this. The professor said that's why I call you the professor, because you're a smart man. He said that the president is the head of his party. And I believe that because Trump done took over the Republican Party, and we don't even recognize that party today. So Bernie Sanders, he's going to take over the Democratic Party. Now, people are trying to say that Willie, well, I'll give it to next week. And play some of the Ronald Reagan videos, because those are some good ones also.
Yeah. There's a real interesting piece in, I think it was in the New York Times today, an op-ed saying that, Bernie Sanders is actually the new Ronald Reagan. Reagan was an outsider to the Republican Party. He was considered a fringe candidate and a radical. And of course, he made a lot of changes to the Republican Party. And I think that's a pretty good analysis. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
But of course, a Democratic outsider who wants to make substantial changes, both to the party and the country, would be a good thing as compared to Reagan. We'll be back. And welcome back. Alexis in Brookline, Massachusetts. Hey, Alexis, thanks for watching us on YouTube.
Hi.
What's up?
My son has premature lung disease. He's a toddler, special needs, has a feeding tube. I have a permanent scar on my lung from when pneumonia almost killed me 10 years ago. Everybody on the news keeps on saying, you're fine, everybody's fine. As long as you're healthy and don't have pre-existing conditions, you're fine. Well, my family has a lot of people in it with pre-existing conditions, and nobody's telling us what we're supposed to do to keep our family safe.
Yeah.
They're only talking about what healthy people should do.
Well, I would say
what about the rest of us?
Over the short term, until test kits are widely available and there's some sense of the state and federal government doing something about this. And I don't know what Massachusetts is doing, but number one, just stay away from public places. And don't shake hands with people anymore. And wash your hands frequently and try to break the habit of touching your face. I've just noticed I've touched my face.
One huge problem with that is my son and I both have very serious medical issues that need to see doctors, sometimes for some of them once a month for checkups.
Yeah.
And all those checkups are at the hospital.
Yeah.
And we don't know, nobody's giving any information out about what high-risk patients should be doing right now to continue their care safely, to make sure they have all their prescriptions and medical supplies. And what do we do about that supply in general for certain medications that come from China?
Well, and this
nobody's telling any of us.
Right, and this is why for the last 2 weeks I've been telling people, if you take a regular medication that your life depends on or your quality of life depends on. In my case, it's a blood pressure medication. In my wife's case, it's for thyroid. Get a 90-day supply. Talk to your doctor and ask your doctor.
There's one big problem with that for poor people like me who are on disability only. we only get 30 days covered by insurance.
Right.
And it's hundreds sometimes for two of our medications.
Well, sometimes, Alexis, if your doctor writes a prescription for a 90-day supply and literally physically writes right on the prescription, make this a 90-day supply, and my doctor said, he's going to be traveling, and that was accepted by my insurance company. Louise's prescription with a different insurance company said no. They wouldn't pay for the 90-day supply. That was the bad news. The good news was that it was only $25 for the 90-day supply. But for some people, $25 is an insurmountable amount. I get it. Yeah. And this again points out, I mean, if there's a lesson out of any of this stuff, it's that we need Medicare for all. We need everybody to be in a single payer healthcare system where medications are free or damn close to free, and you can get to see your doctor whenever you need to. But again, I'm not a medical professional. I can't offer medical advice. But if I was a high-risk person, I would only be going to a hospital if it was absolutely necessary. I would not be going to a hospital now for routine checkups. But again, I can't advise you, Alexis. You need to talk to your physician. Yeah. So, but I get your concern. I absolutely do, and I think a lot of people are very concerned right now. Alexis, thank you for the call. I wish you and your son the very, very best. I hope everything turns out well for you. And the fact of the matter is, your child, Alexis, is probably going to be fine. It seems like kids don't get this. I mean, they get the infection, but they don't get sick from it, which is raising some interesting questions about why that is and how we might treat it, knowing that. So anyway, we'll be back. Stick around. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton actually won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Florida in the 2016 election? It's on page 92 of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Jan in Kirkland, Washington. How are you dealing with the coronavirus outbreak? You're right at the epicenter.
I've got a little bit of a cold, so I'm keeping myself inside. But the thing that concerned me was the lady who called from Seattle who couldn't get tested, because I heard on, I believe it was KUOW last week, that the local trauma hospital, Harborview, has a team you can call and they'll go over with you like telemedical type stuff. And then if they think it's warranted, they will send out a home test team.
Oh, interesting. So they'll come to your house and test you.
If they determine that.
Right.
Yeah,
if you give them a symptom profile that sounds like you've got this disease.
I'm not sure what all information you give them. I would think the information that she is a physical therapist working with elderly would be part of that decision as to whether or not you would test.
You would think, and that she has the symptoms right now, that she's got the recurring fevers and the cough, and those are the two biggest symptoms.
I don't know which symptoms she had, but yeah. But and Inslee, in his government, the governor had his conference yesterday, and he had all these health people there. He was to the point, short, turned it over to the professionals. Yeah. And they were already getting things together before we had our first diagnosed case in Kirkland, because of course we're on the West Coast and we're a major port. Yeah, and it was just totally embarrassing yesterday to watch Donald Trump have a meeting with some pharmaceutical executives that he should have had 4 months ago. And basically begging them to do something. I mean, and asking, well, can you create a vaccine that also is the flu vaccine and that also makes you better all at the same time? And they're like, you just don't understand medicine. Oh, it was sad. Jan, thanks for the call. Did not reassure me. Inslee and his people made me feel better. Yes. And I know we've got emergency response people, because I know some of the people that are volunteers that work with it. Yeah. And I know we have exercises every year. And I know that some of the scenarios they've done have included a pandemic. So. Yeah, good. I trust Jay Inslee. He's a good guy. He's a great governor. You've got a great governor for your state, so you're in good hands. Thanks a lot for the call, Jan. Marta in Big Bear Lake, California. Hey, Marta, what's up?
Well, my concern is that Democrats profess progressive values, but then we are voting for seriously right-wing candidates and incredibly cruel policies and record on, what they've done in the past and what they're doing now, what their platforms are. And I think that we need to be honest with ourselves, because Trump will exploit those horrendous, activities.
Past votes, yes. No, I get it, and I get the subtext of what you're saying, Marta, and I share your concern. But the fact of the matter is that whoever we the people select, and that's what it's going to come down to, somebody's going to have to get 1,991 delegates. Or it's going to get thrown to the second vote, which I don't think will be a good thing. And, well, we'll see. Marta, thank you for the call. I share your concerns. I would like to see, the Democratic Party go back to its revolutionary roots with Franklin Roosevelt and John Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson, the people that I've been playing here today. Mike in Chicago. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, you just took the words out of my mouth, Tom. I'm a little frustrated with Bernie in regards to that. I wish you'd be more aggressive talking about FDR, bring up what he said in 35, Truman in 48, John F. Kennedy in 60 about democratic socialism.
Yes.
And tie it in, be aggressive, because I think Biden, all polls are saying Biden is winning the 60 and up crowd. Well, guess what? Social Security and Medicare, 62 and above, is democratic socialism.
Yeah.
And I think Bernie needs, whether he needs a press conference or just keep on pounding it over and over again. I think I'm frustrated. I want him to be more aggressive because the corporate wing of the party, since Clinton in 92, is after these trade deals, and they're after big money, and they've really become Republican light. So I want you to comment on that, Tom.
Well, I am hopeful that Bernie Sanders and or Elizabeth Warren emerge from this whole process in very good shape, because I think that they're the ones that will do what needs to be done. But I also think that if Joe Biden is the nominee, and it looks like it's coming down to that, Bernie versus Biden, that if Joe Biden is the nominee, he has already been pushed substantially, quote, to the left. And I think probably he'll move a lot farther left. We'll see. Dean in Los Angeles. Hey, Dean, thanks for listening to KPFK. What's up?
Good morning.
Hey.
Well, I'm actually, I run a limo business. I'm just driving here to LAX. But I actually was going to call in regards to the delegate count for Super Tuesday. Over the weekend, I did a little bit of number crunching on my own. I looked at all the polls I could on like 538 and Real Clear Politics. And my prediction is that it's looking like it's going to be at least 2 to 3 times the delegates going to Sanders over Biden.
Today on Super Tuesday, you're talking about?
For Super Tuesday, yeah.
Right. Which is about 1,400 delegates.
Sanders will be around. Sanders should probably pull in around 800 delegates.
Yeah.
And Biden around 250 to 300. Now, I don't know Klobuchar had one state that she was just doing great, of course, Minnesota.
Right.
But second place was Sanders, not Biden.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, this conventional wisdom that everybody who is supporting Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar is automatically going to go to Biden is going to be tested today, because I think a lot of those people are either going to go to Warren or Sanders. Because, as you point out, when you ask people their second choice, it's often surprising.
Right. And it seemed odd to me that Klobuchar would have actually, bowed out the day before Super Tuesday instead of afterwards, because she could have taken her pledged delegates. She would have gotten about probably 35 or 40, because there were 75 delegates in Minnesota. Yeah. She could have handed them over.
I think that the institution, the institutional Democratic Party, I'm suspecting, frankly, that former President Barack Obama is probably also making some phone calls here.
Right.
I don't think that this is all that mysterious. This is an attempt to stop Bernie Sanders. Period. Full stop.
Right.
Dean, thanks for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Well, it's Super Tuesday, and it's a really super Tuesday, thanks to Mike in San Francisco. He has put up a $50,000 match. Anything you donate up to $50,000 will be doubled today by Mike in San Francisco. God bless you, Mike. Thank you. This is amazing. It's a great day to make a contribution. This is going to be today and tomorrow, by the way. And that your contribution will be matched. So whatever you give, it's going to be doubled. It's also Super Tuesday, the election day, you know, and so we're gonna see how that all plays out, and we'll certainly be talking about that tomorrow. And you know, having conversations that, you know, the entire conversation, it seems, on CNN and MSNBC is, what's it going to take to stop Bernie? And oh my God, you know, and the Republic is melting down, you know. And I think we have some reasonable and more rational conversations here and cover, you know, things like the actual history of the Democratic Party and FDR and LBJ and you know, let's go back to our roots and stuff like that. So anyway, please help out Free Speech TV so that we can continue these kind of conversations. Please call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help. Now is a great time to call and contribute to Free Speech TV. With a $20 gift, you get the Proud Student at Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that, you know, helps people get out the vote. I'm voting RU, and, you know, it's got the Free Speech TV logo on it. Your choice of one or the other of those with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote tote bag, which, you know, for the next, 9 months, 8 months, is going to be pretty cool. And then after that, it's going to be one of those things that, you know, down the road, you'll see people selling them on eBay as mementos of the 2020 election. This is going to be an historic election, regardless of who the Democratic nominee is, because the Democratic nominee, is going to be running against, well, you know, that orange thing in the White House. With a $75 gift, you get that tag. You get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug, one of my favorites. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet where we all meet online and talk. With a $120 gift, by the way, I skipped over that and I shouldn't have. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $300 gift, there's the whole Get the Vote Out pack, the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family to let them know about, you know, the various shows on Free Speech TV. You get the Get Out the Vote car magnet and the Just Effing Vote tote bag and my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, you get all three of my books, the whole Hidden History collection, suitable for being a gift. They every single one will have an autographed book plate in it, and you know, great to give to friends and neighbors and relatives or birthdays. You know, there's always gift giving opportunities coming up. That's a $360 gift to Free Speech TV, or maybe you just like to read them yourself. So I guess I was assuming that many of you already have the books, but and in which case they make great gifts. But if you haven't read them, I think you'll find them very accessible. They're small. They're about 180 pages each, and very readable. And you will learn things that you didn't know, even things that you haven't heard me talk about on this program. They're just great books. I put a lot of work into them. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us, and we'll have a meet and greet here, and then go have some lunch. So those are the premiums for the Free Speech TV drive. But the really important thing is that Free Speech TV needs you. You know, I mean, this is Free Speech TV continues to exist and has for all these years, almost 2 decades, purely as a result of people who watch Free Speech TV saying, "Hey, I'm going to help out." And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal, and Free Speech TV is a very important television network. So, you know, 2 things. I constantly harp on this, but I think it's really so important. Number one, tell your friends about Free Speech TV. give them some of the free speech TV swag, the goodies that Free Speech TV gives away or has, or gives very, very cheap, that have, that list which channel we're on Dish and which channel we're on DirecTV, and so that people can easily find, and freespeech.org. I mean, tell people about the website, which also will tell people how they can find Free Speech TV if they want to watch it on their television. If you know anybody who has satellite TV, if you see a satellite dish on their house, that means that they've got Dish or Direct, which means they've got Free Speech TV, and they probably don't know it. So spread the word. But also, please call now, 877-378-8669. Whatever you give will be doubled. Your $20 gift becomes $40. Your $50 gift becomes $100. Your $75 gift becomes $150. And, on it goes from there. So please call 877-378-8669. Let's make this a super, super Tuesday. Thanks. We have a special video up over at TomHartmann.com for supporters of our program, and it's about how a letter that the IRS sent out to 3.9 million Americans saved 700 lives. And you're like, wait a minute, the IRS saved 700 lives? How did that happen? Well, it had to do with Obamacare, and it's a fascinating story. And it turns out that this analysis of this IRS mailing was actually the first time that the federal government has done a study that actually proved that people having access to health care produces fewer deaths. For every 1,648 people who got the letter, there was one fewer premature death. I'll explain the whole thing in the video. It's as I said, it's available over at TomHartmann.com for people who are regular supporters of our program, and it is really worth checking out. And it's a great ad, essentially, for a national health care system.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And also welcome back to Professor Andrew Bacevich, the president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, professor emeritus of history and international relations at Boston University, author of numerous books, including America's War for the Greater Middle East, a military history, and his latest Age of Illusions. Quincy INST as an institute, quincyinst.org is the website, and also the Twitter handle. Andrew is the president of that. He grew up in Indiana. He graduated from West Point and Princeton, served in the Army, and became an academic and now a writer. Andrew, welcome back to the program.
Well, thanks very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I know that you and your family have a history with Afghanistan, and now we have Donald Trump saying that he's negotiating the end of America's longest war with Afghanistan. That, in the abstract, seems like a really good thing. What's really going on here?
Well, I think we're at the early stages of what is likely to be a fairly long story here. I very much hope that the Afghanistan war is ending, because I think it's been an act of folly on our part that needed to end long ago. I hope that the Afghan people will be able to emerge from this nightmare that they have been experiencing for several decades now. But to me, the most important thing, and I guess I'm speaking from a narrow American perspective, the most important thing here is to realize that we've experienced a profound defeat. The objective of the Taliban all along has been to force foreign troops to leave their country. Right. They are now about to achieve that. They've won, we've lost, and I think there's a tremendous need to reflect on this failure on our part, how it occurred, and what it means.
Well, they evicted the Soviets now they're in the process of evicting us. If we look back at Vietnam, the South Vietnamese, or the Vietnamese rather, evicted the French, and then us. It seems to me that the framing on this is wrong. First of all, Mullah Omar had publicly said he would arrest bin Laden and turn him over to a third country for trial if George W. Bush would simply present him with any evidence at all that bin Laden was responsible for 9/11. Bush said, no thanks, we'd rather have a war. We won that war in as much as we took down the Afghan government in a matter of weeks or months at the most. Everything since then has been an occupation. And I would say the same is true of Iraq. Or am I wrong?
No, I think you're exactly right. And of course, then you say, well, why did that happen? Why did we change our mission, in a sense? If the object of the exercise was to overthrow the Taliban government, you're right. We did it in a matter of weeks. But then we set out to nation build. Right. We set out to, having removed a regime that we didn't like, we set out to install a regime that would be more to our liking. And installing a regime meant creating Afghan security forces, trying to create a competent government, trying to eliminate corruption, try to deal with the fact that Afghanistan produces most of the opium for the entire world. And that led us to this almost 2 decades long project where we have sadly have accomplished very, very few of our objectives. And now Trump, I think, very much reflecting the preferences of the American people to the extent that they're paying attention, Trump has basically said, hey, we're out of here.
Yeah. And I can't recall any time that the United States has overthrown a government and then had a successful occupation of a country. We've participated in overthrowing governments. Allende in Chile, is it Gosadek? What's his name? The guy in Iran that we overthrew, and helped install the Shah.
Mossadegh, yes.
Yeah, Mossadegh, yeah, and it blew up in our face. We helped put Saddam Hussein in power, as I recall. We helped overthrow a democratically elected government there too.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, but the disagreement is a telling one, because the way we have chosen to remember World War II is that we achieved regime change in Germany and we achieved it in Japan. And at least in West Germany, we embarked upon a successful nation-building project, and the same applies to Japan. Mm-hmm. But the key here is that those circumstances were unique. We had to drop nuclear weapons on Japan. We had to virtually destroy Germany in order to create a West German democracy. But political elites, and this is true of people in both parties, I think have used this 1945 outcome as a reference point. By God, if we can build a democracy in Germany, then surely we can build it in Iraq or in Afghanistan. Yeah. And the historical comparison was bogus, and the 1945 example simply has not panned out to anybody's benefit.
One of my mentors, who I met in 1978 and who died in his 90s in the previous decade from now, was in the German army, and remembered those times quite well. And in fact, some of the other people, he ran a international relief agency, and several of the other people were of his age, and they had also been in the Hitler Youth, actually. Horst von Heyer, in particular, I got to know him very well. And what they described to me was that Germany basically fell under the thrall of a cult. And in their opinion, the same thing had happened in Japan with this emperor worship, and that it took an absolute and utter military defeat that devastated the country to break the thrall of that cult. And once the cult was broken, that was basically the end of it. And if you were to identify the Taliban as a cult, as a fundamentalist, cult of sorts, we have done nothing close to breaking that cult. Is that analogy? Does that make any sense? Are there any lessons in that?
Well, I don't know. I think I'd throw in, with regard to the examples of Germany and Japan and why they were able to reform, I think I'd throw another factor into the mix, and that's the existence of the Soviet Union. If you were in the western part of Germany at the end of World War II, you had a choice. You can align yourself with the West, aligned with the United States, or you can align yourself with the Soviet Union. Right. Guess what? Easy choice. same thing applies to the Japanese.
Right, China versus us.
Or the Soviet Union more immediately.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they could cooperate with the conquerors, us, or they could resist and hope that they could find some kind of salvation in the communist world. Again, easy choice. Though that notion has not applied in our post 9/11 world, and so the circumstances, the unique circumstances that facilitated transforming defeated Germany and defeated Japan into more or less liberal democracies simply has not existed since then.
Right.
We repeatedly think we can create a democracy, and we repeatedly fall on our faces. It was true
also
in South Vietnam and. Go ahead.
With Germany and Japan, we didn't send our companies over there and our people over there to basically supervise the rebuilding of the country, like we're doing with all these contractors in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Marshall Plan was cash. We gave them cash. And they built their own factories to make their own steel, and they made their own concrete, and they rebuilt their own industry from the ground up, rather than us coming in and saying, we're going to build all this for you like we've been doing in Afghanistan and Iraq. If I believe, correct me if I'm wrong about this.
No, I mean, you may be slightly overstating it, but I agree with the basic point, and that is that, why did West Germany make this transition from Nazi rule to becoming a fairly mature liberal democracy by the early 1950s? And the answer is because they willed it. Konrad Adenauer, the first chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, pretty much a forgotten figure, I think, as far as most Americans are concerned. He was a great man. He was a great leader. He was determined that in the western part of Germany, that they were going to move beyond the Nazism and embrace liberal values and embrace democracy. So it wasn't so much us doing it to them or for them, but us giving them the opportunity to make a wise choice. I think that happened in the western part of Germany, and it actually happened in all of Germany if you fast forward to 1989, and it also happened in places like Japan.
Yeah, and also, FDR was quite explicit about this. If I can just play a real quick clip, I think that there's a huge difference. This is FDR back in the during the war, actually.
The opposition in this year has already imported.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on just a second. This is well, okay. I don't want to play the whole clip, but basically he said, "We will not have any war millionaires. I will not tolerate anyone getting rich on slaughter," was his quote. And it seems like the exact opposite has happened with regard to Afghanistan and Iraq. We have transferred probably over $1 trillion to American contracting companies to do things in those countries.
That is correct. And this actually, I think, gets to a larger and very important point, and that is if we look at the experience of World War II, there was an expectation of shared sacrifice in terms of a citizen army drawn from across American society to go fight the war, but also shared sacrifice in rationing and imposing limits on how much money people are going to make out of this war.
Right. And
those factors have simply they're long gone. I mean, they disappeared, I think, at the end of Vietnam. And you're right. Somehow or other, we end up fighting wars that offer an opportunity for some people to get very, very rich indeed, while the burden of sacrifice in terms of fighting and fighting and dying is that burden is borne by a very, very small part of American society, and is sure the heck isn't the rich people who are doing the fighting.
Yes, we have reached that point. Jefferson said, "I hope I shall never live to see the day when a young American is willing to be shot at for a sixpence." We're there. Professor Andrew Bacevich, thank you so much for being with us today. It's great talking with you.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. His most recent book, Age of Illusions. Prior to that, America's War for the Greater Middle East, A Military History. Andrew Bacevich. Professor Andrew Bacevich. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
A fascinating conversation. We'll see how this all plays out, and hope for the best. We'll be back. And welcome back, Heidi in Bellevue, Washington. Hey, Heidi, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I live in the town right next. I live in Bellevue, the town right next door to Kirkland.
And Kirkland is where these
daughter,
deaths have occurred, right? The coronavirus deaths.
Yes, and I'd like to tell you what's going on in the schools and what's not being reported in the media.
Okay.
Even locally. I have a 19-year-old daughter who attends Bellevue College. There's something going around the school. The kids are all getting sick. She lives in the dorm, and then she goes to work at the school system where Kirkland is as in after-school childcare. And I have a son who's 8 years old. He goes to this school system right here in Bellevue. And, this is a very international community because of Microsoft. We've got people flying in and out to China, everywhere in the world. But anyway, so what they've said to do with they've shut down some of the college near here that has a nursing school but isn't a dorm. All the nursing students were exposed to that, so they're self-quarantining. But basically what I see happening, given my daughter's dorm, is it is beginning to spread, and we don't know what it is because we can't get them tested, that it is hitting the young people. I got an email Saturday night after the first death Saturday morning about how the schools were going to handle this. Now, I'd like you to keep in mind that Seattle Children's Hospital here, children have been dying in the hospital because there's a mold problem there.
Right, I read about that.
And we've already, so that's what we've got for our backup, Seattle Children's Hospital, where they're dying because of the mold problem. So the email said that they would basically wait until a child got sick before they'd start shutting down the schools and fumigating them. Basically, because, the schools are child care centers also. And that, they would just have to practice good hand hygiene and not wipe their faces and that sort of thing. Right. Now, I can't expect my 8-year-old not to wipe his face. Right. So we've gone into quarantine.
You're keeping your kids home, basically? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I can't get my 19-year-old daughter to stay home, right. But I'm keeping my younger child home. My great-grandmother died in the 1918-1919 pandemic, and she left behind 7 children under 12 years old. My grandmother was the oldest and never got over it. I mean, it's really caused some long-term problems in my family. Yeah. But, they're doing nothing here on the east side of Seattle, absolutely nothing to protect us, given number one, we're the center.
They haven't been able to get the test kits, Heidi, because the Trump administration did not plan for this.
Well, and as I said, we are an extremely international community. Right. This is not anti-Chinese or whatever, but, we've got people from China, from everywhere, flying in and out. Our school district has a Chinese immersion school, where the Chinese kids go so they can learn to read and write in their own language. Right. And,
It is such a disgrace that Donald Trump sat on this for 4 months, called it a Democratic hoax, and instead of having somebody manufacturing test kits so that the kids in your school could just be routinely tested. This is just insane. Heidi, thank you for sharing your story with us. I wish you the very best, you and your family. That's a tough one. And the kids in the schools are getting sick. Well, maybe it's just the flu, right? In fact, it probably is, but we don't know because Trump didn't plan. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. So just in the province of British Columbia, which is just north of Seattle, right, that's Vancouver, Canada, They've tested, what was the number, Sean? 1,012 people. And the entire state of Oregon only has 1,500 test kits and has only tested 28 people. Nationwide, we've only tested, as of yesterday, 470 some odd people. And we just got a call from a woman in Bellevue, next door to Kirkland, and she said that the kids in the school are starting to, they've got something going around this school, whether it's flu or whether it's a cold or whether it's a coronavirus, and because they're young, they're not getting super sick. Nobody knows, and so she's just basically taking her 8-year-old and going into self-quarantine. People are not able to find out what it is they have when they get a lung infection and a fever, and as a consequence, they're not sure what to do. Eric in Kent, Washington. Hey, Eric, what's up? Eric, I'm gonna put you on hold. It's taking you a second to get us out there. Mick in Seattle. Hey, Mick, what's up?
Good morning, Tom. I have a question for you. Do you use cash?
Generally not. I generally use credit cards for pretty much everything. But if your point is that money can carry germs, I get it.
Okay. Having said that, how about the availability of water to wash your hands?
Well, we have a good water supply here. I mean, I don't think the water's going to go away.
So my point on that is, it sounds to me like we're the haves and have-nots, the homeless, cannot wash their hands as often.
Excellent point.
Nor can refugees in migrant camps, nor can people that are by the border waiting to get in.
And the kids in the cages that Trump is holding. I mean, these are all breeding grounds, essentially.
Yes, and we seem to forget that China was able to quarantine 11 million people in a city of Wuhan, even though they had to do the whole province of Hubei. But the point that they found was by doing that, they could find out how this could be transmitted.
Right.
So I'm hoping that by us learning from others and collaborating and cooperating, that we can skip to the chase by addressing the concern of the previous caller about her being so close and the children being at risk. I'm hopeful that we start using our brain rather than our pocketbooks, because everybody's running out trying to buy supplies, and that's only going to
I just looked on Amazon for hand sanitizer, thinking that I would get some for the office here. $44 a bottle for the stuff that you used to be $3 at the CVS. I mean, it's the price gouging is out of control, and of course Amazon's algorithms work on a kind of supply and demand basis, and so I guess you would expect that, but go ahead,
Tom.
Yeah.
I was going to say that public transportation is also being addressed by the mayor in Seattle, because the spread being possibly
right. And Mayor De Blasio said in New York they're going to start aggressively disinfecting the subways, but they're probably going to do that every night, which means that you're still holding onto a handrail that's been held onto by 300 people before you, and it's going to be probably fairly hard to get nitrile or even latex gloves at this point if you wanted to do that. Mick, thanks for the call. Boy, Donald Trump's failure to plan is really starting to bite us in the butt. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
The absolute screaming incompetence of the Republican Senate, the Russian Moscow Mitch, and Donald Trump. It's a public health nightmare. Well, it's Super Tuesday, and it's a really super Tuesday, thanks to Mike in San Francisco. He has put up a $50,000 match. Anything you donate up to $50,000 will be doubled today by Mike in San Francisco. God bless you, Mike. Thank you. This is amazing. It's a great day to make a contribution. This is going to be today and tomorrow, by the way. And that your contribution will be matched. So whatever you give, it's going to be doubled. It's also Super Tuesday, the election day, and so we're gonna see how that all plays out, and we'll certainly be talking about that tomorrow. And having conversations that, the entire conversation, it seems, on CNN and MSNBC is, what's it going to take to stop burning? And oh my God, and the Republic is melting down, And I think we have some reasonable and more rational conversations here and cover, things like the actual history of the Democratic Party and FDR and LBJ and let's go back to our roots and stuff like that. So anyway, please help out Free Speech TV so that we can continue these kind of conversations. Please call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help. Now is a great time to call and contribute to Free Speech TV. With a $20 gift, you get the Proud Student at Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that helps people get out the vote. I'm voting RU, and it's got the Free Speech TV logo on it. Your choice of one or the other of those with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote tote bag, which, for the next, 9 months, 8 months, is going to be pretty cool. And then after that, it's going to be one of those things that, down the road, you'll see people selling them on eBay as mementos of the 2020 election. This is going to be an historic election regardless of who the Democratic nominee is, because the Democratic nominee is going to be running against, that orange thing in the White House. With a $75 gift, you get that tag. You get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug, one of my favorites. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet where we all meet online and talk. With a $120 gift, by the way, I skipped over that and I shouldn't have. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $300 gift, there's the whole Get the Vote Out pack, the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family to let them know about, the various shows on Free Speech TV. You get the Get Out the Vote car magnet and the Just Effing Vote tote bag and my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, you get all three of my books, the whole Hidden History collection, suitable for being a gift. Every single one will have an autographed book plate in it, and great to give to friends and neighbors and relatives or birthdays. There's always gift-giving opportunities coming up. That's a $360 gift to Free Speech TV, or maybe you just like to read them yourselves. I guess I was assuming that many of you already have the books, but and in which case they make great gifts. But if you haven't read them, I think you'll find them very accessible. They're small. They're about 180 pages each, and very readable. And you will learn things that you didn't know, even things that you haven't heard me talk about on this program. They're just great books. I put a lot of work into them. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us, and we'll have a meet and greet here, and then go have some lunch. So those are the premiums for the Free Speech TV drive. But the really important thing is that Free Speech TV needs you. This is Free Speech TV continues to exist and has for all these years, almost 2 decades, purely as a result of people who watch Free Speech TV saying, "Hey, I'm going to help out." And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal, and Free Speech TV is a very important television network. So, 2 things. I constantly harp on this, but I think it's really so important. Number one, tell your friends about Free Speech TV. Give them some of the Free Speech TV swag. The goodies that Free Speech TV gives away or has, or gives very, very cheap. That have, that list which channel we're on Dish and which channel we're on DirecTV, and so that people can easily find, and freespeech.org. Tell people about the website, which also will tell people how they can find Free Speech TV if they want to watch it on their television. If you know anybody who has satellite TV, if you see a satellite dish on their house, that means that they've got Dish or Direct, which means they've got free speech TV, and they probably don't know it. So spread the word. But also, please call now, 877-378-8669. Whatever you give will be doubled. Your $20 gift becomes $40. Your $50 gift becomes $100. Your $75 gift becomes $150. And, on it goes from there. So please call 877-378-8669. Let's make this a super, super Tuesday. Thanks. Coming up this week on the Science Revolution, is the coronavirus about to show us the cost of not having Medicare for all? Former health insurance executive Wendell Potter, public health professor at George Washington University Medical School Dr. Lena Wen, and author of The Coming Plague, Lori Garrett, all join me for the most up-to-date information on the now pandemic coronavirus. Don't miss it, and check it out wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. As you know, I talk about it frequently on this program. I am a subscriber to Popular Information, which is a newsletter that Judd Legum puts together. Every day it comes in my email box. It's free. Popular.info is the website, and Judd's Twitter handle is Judd, Legum. Judd, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
You have knocked it out of the park today. You've got two major stories in Popular Information. The first about the CDC they're trying to, or at least the Trump administration, trying to bury some of the coronavirus statistics, and the second about Facebook and the Daily Caller and fact checking. Let's just quickly cover both of those, if that's okay with you. To start, what's going on with the statistics that we're getting out of the CDC and other agencies in the federal government? I saw at the top of Daily Kos just a minute ago that Mr. Esper, the Secretary of Defense, basically just told the military, don't say anything to anybody, have it all go through me and Mike Pence. In other words, we're going to keep a lid on this stuff. Is the same thing happening with the CDC?
Yeah, it appears that way. Because as you know, the testing is really the key issue here. Because what happened is that the Trump administration was taking some action trying to limit entry through borders, but in the meantime, the coronavirus was spreading within the borders of the United States, and no one was being tested, or very few people were being tested. As of last Friday, there were fewer than 500 people being tested, and I knew that, and other people knew that, because the CDC was publishing statistics about how many people were tested. Right. But then yesterday, looked back at that same page, and that information was no longer available. They just removed it from the chart. So now we don't know how many people are tested. And it's really a key piece of information, because until we test a critical mass of people, we will have no idea whether we have a handle on what the scope of the threat from this virus is within the United States. You can say, oh, well, there's only 100 people who've been confirmed. Well, if you've only tested 500 people, that doesn't tell you that much. Right, exactly. When you look at countries that are, in South Korea, they've tested, 100,000 people, something like that? I think it's close to that by now. As of a few days ago, it was 60,000 people. They have drive-through testing. You can stay in your car and they'll test you. Wow. They're really ramping it up. Yeah. And that's what you need to do, because you need to know where the outbreaks are. You need to help people protect themselves. You need to quarantine people who and make sure that they're not out there spreading it to other people. And am I have the virus. Am I correct in recalling that it was in November when we first started hearing about this virus breaking out in Wuhan, China, and that certainly by the time we were hearing it in the public news, you would think that the national security agencies would have gotten it from their spy networks and whatnot. Although I guess they have to feed their information through Fox News if they want to get it to Donald Trump. But he has had basically 4 months to get ready for this. And I was just reading the Oregonian this morning. We're a relatively small state, but still, we've got a few million people here in Oregon. And the entire state has 1,500 test kits. They've tested 38 people so far. They're being very, very
careful, shall we say, with who they test because they just don't have enough test kits, and they're concerned about a larger outbreak. I mean, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, and I've heard that as well. Anecdotally, I've got it ever since I put out that information yesterday. I have people from all around the country contacting me, telling me that they've got these symptoms and they're trying to get tested, but they can't get tested because they don't meet the criteria yet.
Right.
I think for a long time they were really only testing people who had been to China and then maybe some of these other countries like South Korea, or knew that they had contact with those people.
Right.
But that seems to make now they may be lessening that now. That they've loosened up some of the restrictions and they have more capacity to test people, but we don't know. And that's why the information is really important, because the failure as of last week to really test any substantial number of Americans was a big deal.
Yeah, and we should have been doing this in December.
Maybe it's getting better, but we really don't know at this point.
Right, we should have been doing this in December. We should have been doing it in January. We should have been doing it in February. Here it is, March, and we can't even get the damn test kits. They say that there's going to be 1 million of them available next week. I have not heard that from any authoritative source outside of people saying, well, this is what the White House says. So God only knows. Speaking of facts and fact checking, you have been one of my best sources of information about what's going on inside Facebook and how Facebook is basically working to promote right-wing causes and Donald Trump and right-wing politicians. And part of that is that one of their fact checkers is the Daily Caller, which is a notorious right-wing rag. And their foundation is funded in part by a group that denies climate change, among other things. Tell us about what's going on over at Facebook.
Yeah, this is something I've had my eye on for a while. Last year, basically caving into pressure from conservatives, they decided to add the Daily Caller to their group of independent fact checkers. The current group, or the group prior to Daily Caller joining, was the Associated Press, PolitiFact, a lot of the places you probably heard.
Right.
Conservatives were saying those are liberal biased sources. You need to have a conservative to balance them out, which is fairly absurd, but okay, that's what they said. And so they've added the Daily Caller, and really what this allows the Daily Caller to do is really any piece of content that's posted to Facebook, it can judge that it's ruled false information, and then there's warnings that pop up when you try to post that information, and even if you do post it, the distribution is greatly reduced. I think it's 80% or more, and also that entire publication, other articles by that publication will be reduced, the distribution will be reduced for a period of time. So what my article today talks about is how the Daily Caller took an article by Politico, which reported that President Trump had referred to the coronavirus as a hoax and labeled that false information.
Hey, I heard him say it. I mean, it was at one of his rallies. I heard him say it was not just a hoax. He said it was a Democratic hoax.
Yeah, and that's what he did say. And I think that, and he speaks circularly, so you could parse the language a bunch of different ways. And I think he said, this is a hoax after talking about the coronavirus. So what was the this? What he's saying, what he later said the next day, actually, was where he was referring to the Democratic criticisms of it.
All right.
The reality is you can't really disentangle all of those things. You say the Democratic criticisms are invalid because it's not that big of a threat. So the hoax is everything. It's the criticisms and it's the virus itself.
Right.
Anyway, Daily Caller takes the most positive spin on this, essentially the president's spin, adapts it, and labels this Politico article false. I actually subsequently learned there's an NBC article that largely said the same thing, that they've also tagged as false. And, now that information, it is shaping the narrative. There's millions of people getting news, and that information is now not being read to the extent that it would be without the Daily Caller's intervention.
Right, and
not only is it an issue right here, but it's going to be an issue moving forward.
And Facebook is a primary source of news information for what, 30% of Americans? Some mind-boggling number?
Yeah, and there's 180 million Americans on Facebook. Many of them get news from Facebook. Facebook's making a big effort to break into news. They have a new news product, and they seem to be determined to cater to the right wing. And why should the Daily Caller, which has a history, a long history of just really absurd misinformation, white nationalists published one of the organizers of the column from one of the organizers of the Charlottesville March. Why should it be passing judgment on Politico, on NBC News? I mean, it just makes no sense.
Right, but Facebook is going along with it. Judd Legum, the newsletter is popular information. It's popular.info on the internet, and it's really worth adding to your list of things to read every morning when it arrives. Judd, you're doing great work. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Good talking with you. And you can also tweet Judd at Judd Legum Legum. We'll be right back. It is. 44 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Speaking the truth to multinational corporations, and Facebook would probably really rather you didn't know about.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
We'll be back with your calls in just a moment. And welcome back. Susie in Vaughan, Washington, listening to KBCS. Hey, Susie, what's up?
Hi, I just wanted to throw my little input here about the Washington Health Department. I have been severely sick for the last 4 days with, just a cold, I think, but who knows. Anyhow, I thought I'd call the department, and after 10 minutes, it automatically cuts you off, and I thought, well, maybe it's my phone, so I tried it again and again and again. And after 4 times, the same thing happened. You're on hold, and then it just automatically ends your call. My doctor does not have the test kits in my area, nor do they have any idea who does have any test kits. I guess we don't have them, from what you're saying, from what the other
pretty much the only way you can get
tested
is to be so severely sick that you need to be in a hospital and then present yourself in an emergency room. That's about it.
Yeah.
So, in all probability, Susie, you have a cold or a mild case of the flu, but but I would,
who knows?
Yeah, I would self-quarantine if possible.
Well, I've been home from work for the last 4 days, and I'm just doing that. So, but yeah, it's scary out there. And go Trump, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Jerk.
There you go. I'm with you. Thank you very much for the call. It's nice to hear from you. Michael in Pine Mountain Club, California. Hey, Michael, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. First of all, is it the Russian Senate or the American Duma? I think you're right on.
There you go. With my Freudian slip there, yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I would like to mention a couple of things about socialism and then Biden in South Carolina. One is that, Trump says that he doesn't want anybody from S-hole countries. Mm-hmm. And he would prefer people come from Norway. Does he not know that Norway is a socialist country?
Right.
And why does he want socialists coming to the United States unless he wants to attack them on Twitter? And why would anyone from a socialist country want to come here in the first place?
Yeah.
Secondly, I used to work for the most socialist organization in the country. They gave me a job. They put money in my pocket. They fed me. They gave me a place to live when I needed an apartment.
Are you talking about the military?
Apartment. I'm talking about the United States Air Force.
There you go.
And I had government-run health care, dental care. Every need that I had was catered to. Yep. And all I had to do was sign a contract to agree to 4 years of this abuse.
Yeah.
Not only that, I got a college degree under the GI Bill, which is another socialist program.
Right.
So be that as it may, I want to talk about South Carolina and Joe Biden.
Okay, you got 30 seconds.
I know that I heard last week that there was a movement afoot amongst the Republicans to urge their voters, since they did not have a primary, to urge their voters to enter the open Democratic primary and vote for Sanders because he was, in their opinion, the weakest candidate or the weaker.
I don't think that's how they think of Bernie. I think they're very, very concerned about Bernie.
I would like to think so, but what happened is that their voters agreed that Biden was the weaker candidate, and that, yes, they did come out. I hear about a record turnout. They did come out, and they voted for Biden because they see him as the weaker candidate.
Yeah. And my personal thought is that he is, but my hope is that either he or Bernie can beat Trump. Michael, thank you for the call. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton actually won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Florida in the 2016 election? It's on page 92 of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. Welcome back, 49 minutes past the hour. Linda in Denver, Colorado. Hey, Linda, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. Just a couple of notes here. Yesterday, actually a couple of days ago, Denver canceled an international conference which would have brought $21 million to the city. Some people found out about it as they were crossing the ocean. One guy was from Israel. He found out about it in flight.
Wow.
One small business owner, a bar, restaurant type of place, had a meeting set up. She got some reimbursement, but is still out of pocket $3,000. Today I saw some lady at the store was so ecstatic because she found 2 small bottles of hand sanitizers. And I have a friend who has a company that uses masks every day in their business, and she can't find any masks out there.
Yeah, I told the story a week and a half ago. One of my best friends is a dentist in Washington, D.C. He's been on this show, Jun Kim, and he sent me an email saying that he couldn't get masks. And the problem for a dentist is you have to have a new mask for every patient. And, because so much stuff sprays out of people's mouths. And he was like, I can't get masks. It's like, whoa.
Well, it was interesting today. I passed this one restaurant that people are usually there in the morning, and there wasn't one car in the parking lot.
Wow. And this is in Denver.
We're not even considered to be, one of the states that, or Colorado's not considered to be one of the states that has any cases.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a severe economic consequence to this, and batten down the hatches. Linda, thank you very much for the call. And companies all over the country, we're doing it here. What happens if somebody gets exposed and has to work from home? Eric in Kent, Washington. Eric, you're on the air.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for taking the call. So I'm calling because the high school that my son attends, Kentwood High School, shut down last week and is still closed today because they're in the process of cleaning the school. Apparently, there was an adult who has a student that's related to them, and out of caution, the school closed because this adult has symptoms, and we're still awaiting results on the test.
Right.
Not sure if he's had the test or not, but also an elementary school is also closed because the same individual has someone in that school that has some relation to this person also.
Yeah.
And earlier you mentioned that kids are affected as much with this virus.
That seems to be the case.
Yes, it's very possible, but they could carry it though.
Yes,
and
that's
it
the
is
problem.
likely that yes, and they can spread. And a little over a week ago, Japan seems to have closed all of their schools right away, and I don't know
South Korea too.
We haven't. Yes, and that's a really great step just to minimize the spread.
Right.
And
we had one, my oldest daughter, who is a nurse practitioner, lives in Lake Oswego, and the Lake Oswego school system, and they have 2 kids in schools. And one of the people who works in one of these schools was diagnosed with the coronavirus. So that school was shut down. I don't know what's going on in the larger area. I haven't talked to her in a couple of days, but it's happening. It's spreading. And I think you're right, Eric, that schools are almost certainly going to be a vector for this stuff. And maybe we should be thinking, given how incompetent the Trump administration has been up to this point, not even having test kits available, for months. I mean, while they saw this thing coming, that maybe closing our schools would be a good thing. Thank you very much for the information, Eric. It's good talking with you. Joe in Cupertino, California. Hey, Joe, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I really found that interesting. I don't know if you saw this letter that was written by this doctor from the University of California at San Diego, and had some really good recommendations on how to try to limit the spread of this pandemic at home with hand washing and, not using your hands to open doors, and that this habit of sticking your hands in your face is tough to beat. But if you put that mask on, maybe it won't touch your mouth and your oral orifices. I thought that was pretty good. But you had a caller yesterday that called and talked about what the Johns Hopkins website. I looked that up, and I really found that to be extremely informative. I've disseminated that to everybody that I know, because it's real time and it's telling you what's going on, not just here.
Right. And that website, by the way, is systems with an S .jhu, as in Johns Hopkins University, systems.jhu.edu. And then that will give you a thing where you can either look at the desktop version or the mobile version of their tracking system for the COVID-19, excuse me.
Yeah, it's not telling anything about, current testing and who's doing what, but it is telling us about the incident and how it's spreading.
Right.
I've been told by people that I know that the voter turnout's not what it should be. I'm wondering if this is having an effect, but, we've sent out like 1 million ballots by mail, and I've only received back maybe 200,000 to date. Today's Super Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I hope that that's not the case. But I wanted to see how you thought about what happened last night with Chris Matthews. I was rather shocked. I don't know. I kind of felt something was in the wire. I know normally don't watch the show late, but I turned it on, and abruptly he announces his retirement, and it was like, what?
Right. Well, there was a person who had been a guest on his show who said that he was making inappropriate remarks to her before they went on the air in the makeup room, saying, you're beautiful, I'm going to fall in love with you, or something like that, and that was the main reason that they canned him. But my guess is that his some of the things he said recently about Bernie Sanders in particular may have also had something to do with that. I don't know. I always thought, his show was entertaining, and sometimes I learned something from it, but, sometimes it just seemed like,
I didn't want it to become a Dan Rather type of a moment for Bernie, because I don't think Bernie said anything. I thought he accepted his apology, and I thought he moved on. So,
yes.
I mean, Dan Rather's departure was because of something that he said derogatory about President Bush.
No, Dan Rather got kicked out because he accurately reported that George W. Bush got into the champagne unit of the Texas Air National Guard with some influence from his daddy, who was in the government at the time. I think he was heading the CIA or something like that. And then he went AWOL for several months, which is, by the way, going AWOL during a war like the Vietnam War is called treason. And moved to Georgia of all places, I believe it was, and maybe it was Alabama. No, in fact, I think it was Alabama. And, ruined this house that they had rented. It caused tens of thousands of dollars of damage. Dan Rather reported that. And then one of the documents that he got, he couldn't prove its provenance. He couldn't prove where it came from. And they said, and the right wing just went nuts on this, and they took him down. They took him down to take the story down. But Dan Rather was right. He was right about George W. Bush, and that story was solid. Joe, thanks a lot for the call. It's good to hear from you. We'll be back. We'll continue all these conversations in just a minute. And maybe we'll hear a little bit more from Franklin Roosevelt. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Well, it's Super Tuesday, and it's a really super Tuesday, thanks to Mike in San Francisco. He has put up a $50,000 match. Anything you donate up to $50,000 will be doubled today by Mike in San Francisco. God bless you, Mike. Thank you. This is amazing. It's a great day to make a contribution. This is going to be today and tomorrow, by the way, and that your contribution will be matched. So whatever you give, it's going to be doubled. It's also Super Tuesday, the election day, and so we're gonna see how that all plays out, and we'll certainly be talking about that tomorrow. And having conversations that, the entire conversation, it seems, on CNN and MSNBC is, what's it going to take to stop Bernie? And oh my God, and the Republic is melting down, And I think we have some reasonable and more rational conversations here and cover, things like the actual history of the Democratic Party and FDR and LBJ and let's go back to our roots and stuff like that. So anyway, please help out Free Speech TV so that we can continue these kind of conversations. Please call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help. Now is a great time to call and contribute to Free Speech TV. With a $20 gift, you get the Proud Student at Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that helps people get out the vote. I'm voting RU, and it's got the Free Speech TV logo on it. Your choice of one or the other of those with a $20 gift. With the $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote tote bag, which, for the next, 9 months, 8 months, is going to be pretty cool. And then after that, it's going to be one of those things that, down the road, you'll see people selling them on eBay as mementos of the 2020 election. This is going to be an historic election, regardless of who the Democratic nominee is, because the Democratic nominee is going to be running against, that orange thing in the White House. With a $75 gift, you get that tag. You get the tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug, one of my favorites. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet where we all meet online and talk. With a $120 gift, by the way, I skipped over that and I shouldn't have. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $300 gift, there's the whole Get the Vote Out pack, the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family to let them know about, the various shows on Free Speech TV. You get the Get Out the Vote car magnet and the Just Effing Vote tote bag and my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, you get all three of my books, the whole Hidden History collection, suitable for being a gift. Every single one will have an autographed book plate in it, and great to give to friends and neighbors and relatives or birthdays. There's always gift giving opportunities coming up. That's a $360 gift to Free Speech TV, or maybe you just like to read them yourself. So I guess I was assuming that many of you already have the books, but and in which case they make great gifts. But if you haven't read them, I think you'll find them very accessible. They're small. They're about 180 pages each, and very readable. And you will learn things that you didn't know, even things that you haven't heard me talk about on this program. They're just great books. I put a lot of work into them. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us, and we'll have a meet and greet here, and then go have some lunch. So those are the premiums for the Free Speech TV drive. But the really important thing is that Free Speech TV needs you. This is Free Speech TV continues to exist and has for all these years, almost 2 decades, purely as a result of people who watch Free Speech TV saying, "Hey, I'm going to help out." And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal, and Free Speech TV is a very important television network. So, 2 things. I constantly harp on this, but I think it's really so important. Number one, tell your friends about Free Speech TV. give them some of the free speech TV swag, the goodies that Free Speech TV gives away or has, or gives very, very cheap, that have, that list which channel we're on Dish and which channel we're on DirecTV, and so that people can easily find, and freespeech.org. I mean, tell people about the website, which also will tell people how they can find Free Speech TV if they want to watch it on their television. If you know anybody who has satellite TV, if you see a satellite dish on their house, that means that they've got Dish or Direct, which means they've got Free Speech TV, and they probably don't know it. So spread the word. But also, please call now, 877-378-8669. Whatever you give will be doubled. Your $20 gift becomes $40. Your $50 gift becomes $100. Your $75 gift becomes $150. And, on it goes from there. So please call 877-378-8669. Let's make this a super, super Tuesday. Thanks. We have a special video up over at ThomHartmann.com for supporters of our program, and it's about how a letter that the IRS sent out to 3.9 million Americans saved 700 lives. And you're like, wait a minute, the IRS saved 700 lives? How did that happen? Well, it had to do with Obamacare, and it's a fascinating story. And it turns out that this analysis of this IRS mailing was actually the first time that the federal government has done a study that actually proved that people having access to health care produces fewer deaths. For every 1,648 people who got the letter, there was one fewer premature death. I'll explain the whole thing in the video. It's as I said, it's available over at ThomHartmann.com for people who are regular supporters of our program, and it is really worth checking out. And it's a great ad, essentially, for our national health care system. Jailbreak Out of History by Butch Lee.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us is Eva Hamer. She is the legal coordinator with Direct Action Everywhere, the website directactioneverywhere.com. And Eva, welcome to the program. I saw an article over at Common Dreams that you wrote titled Why I Protested Costco Topless. And, of course, a provocative headline. But there was so much more to this article. It was really quite extraordinary. Welcome to the program. And you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. The article that you wrote was detailing one of the protests that I did with Direct Action Everywhere pretty recently after a federal case came down handed to us by the corporation Costco. Costco has gotten a little bit fed up with our protests over the years, which are in association with some investigations that we've done of their farms. Mm-hmm. Specifically, we've gone inside of pig farms where pig farms and egg farms that have supplied Costco and taken that message straight to Costco's customers to tell them what we found. There are some conditions in Costco's farms. Now, they've committed to going gestation crate free and, to be treating animals well, to give them 5 freedoms of animal welfare. And we found really just the opposite conditions in these farms. And we've been doing these protests to tell the world. And in response, rather than, thanking us or changing conditions in their farms, they've just handed us a lawsuit in federal court.
Whoa. As a result of this particular protest or as a result of previous action? I mean, is the lawsuit what provoked this protest or was...
Right, yes.
Okay.
So the lawsuit has provoked the protest, and so we responded by doing another protest. It's
right.
important to us that we can.
And you and a number of other women were not just topless, but basically you had painted the naked top half of your body with paint and lipstick to in a way that so that you looked scarred up and bloody, like these animals were being presented to the slaughterhouse, like the way that the animals were treated. Do I have that right? I mean, that was the gist of what I got from the article and the photos I saw.
Right, and that's kind of one of the most graphic things that we see one of the most graphic things that we see in pig farms is that pigs are bred to give more babies than they have nipples. And any nursing mother, I'm sure, knows that it can get really raw. And over the course of multiple pregnancies with very little break in between, it's so common to see raw and bloodied nipples on these mother pigs who aren't able to move around, who aren't able to even, protect their babies, often crush their babies to death because they can't move to avoid that. And the babies are nursing on these raw and bloodied nipples and often have to drink blood to survive. And so that's really what we were kind of showing on our own bodies in this topless protest,
right?
Where you can see bloodied nipples.
Yeah, and good on you. DirectActionEverywhere.com. Tell us about your organization.
We're a grassroots network of animal rights activists, and for about 5 years now, we've been really spreading this message that it's not food, it's violence. That so much of what we think of as really pedestrian and normal and convenient and nice food options that are made out of animals are really rooted in violence. And we really want to expose that and kind of draw that cognitive dissonance out of people, because we know that this is the way that so many of us were raised, so normal in so many of our minds, and we really wanted to get that conversation on the table about how animals are being treated and who animals are, and how animals are, individuals with rich emotional lives just like any of us who really want to live.
Yes. And I'm encouraged by things like, excuse me, Burger King having the Impossible Whopper now. Apparently it's selling well. This is a plant-based burger instead of animal-based. Are you seeing more and more of that sort of thing, of people, the Meatless Monday thing catching on? I mean, a lot of this is being driven actually by the climate change folks who are saying that animal agriculture is one of the major contributors to climate change, producing methane and also, enormous amounts of what could be forest land being converted into cropland just to produce vegetables to feed to animals, plant matter to feed to animals that we will ultimately eat. And if we just took the animals out of that equation and simply ate the plant matter, we'd be healthier, the planet would be healthier, there'd be less CO2 emissions. Do you feel like, is it your sense from the work that you're doing and the direct action that you're doing that you're getting results and that things are moving in a positive direction?
Absolutely. When I see kind of more plant-based options out there, when I see climate change activists talking about the real damage that animal agriculture does, I definitely feel hopeful and feel like folks are moving the direction that their thinking is going in. And I also see the exact opposite out there. Like, for example, the very most liberal presidential candidate that we have here on the Democratic Party is Bernie Sanders. Supports the dairy industry so extensively through supporting the Farm Bill every single year, which provides millions and millions of dollars of subsidies to animal agriculture.
Right. It's a big deal in the state of Vermont.
That's the choice we have.
Yeah, I get that.
Absolutely.
It is a big deal in Vermont, but yeah, it is problematic all the way around. Eva Hamer, excuse me. The website is directactioneverywhere.com, and Eva, I wish you the very best in everything you're doing, and keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for dropping by today. It's good talking with you. We'll be back. It is 12 minutes, coming up on 13 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. And we'll get back into our conversations about, what's going on with the coronavirus, what's going on with the Trump administration, what's going on with our economy. I mean, there's just so much in the news right now. Stick around. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
13 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program, your media support group for We the People. And welcome back. Is it Maher in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? Am I saying that name right? Maher?
Yes, that's right.
What's up, Mayor?
Yeah, I do have a question about Joe Biden and the possibility of Joe Biden becoming the president. Like, at a time, people cannot afford deductibles, out-of-pocket maximum co-payments. They're really indebted to education. They're broke. They can't afford getting a mortgage or having child care. And this been the case with Bush, Obama, like all the presidents, and Trump and Biden is just going to continue this. What would you tell someone that is living? Why would we lie to someone that Biden is going to change their lives? Maybe they're better off immigrating to a democratic socialist country in Europe or Canada. That would bring more change to their lives than actually relying on any of the Democrats.
Yeah, those countries are not going to take you. First of all, it's like they're enough. We don't want any more Americans. But beyond that, if Biden is president, it's the fear of Biden being president is almost as misplaced as the hope of Bernie being president. Hope is the wrong word. As the certainty that if Bernie is president, everything's going to magically get better. In both cases, what's going to happen is the leadership of this country is going to have to respond to the people. They have not been responding to the people with regard to the issues that you raised. Health care, although the Affordable Care Act was a good step in the right direction, but it was just a small step in the right direction. With regard to education, it's an ongoing disaster, and I think you can track a lot of this back to that 2005 bankruptcy bill. And if Joe Biden becomes the president, or if Bernie Sanders becomes the president, change is only going to happen if enough of us mobilize and push it. If we elect enough progressives to the House and Senate, if we can change the nature and composition of our own states and get involved in politics. So rather than sitting around and saying, my savior is going to be Bernie, or the anti-savior is going to be Joe Biden, and woe is me, or whatever, I think what we need to be doing is saying, I'm going to get inside the Democratic Party. I'm going to volunteer to be a precinct committee person. I'm going to be one of the people who actually makes change in this party. If Biden is the president, I'm going to be one of the people leaning on him and all the other Democrats to actually renounce Reaganism, because neither Bill Clinton nor Barack Obama did that. We have not yet said we're going to go back to an economic system based on real classical economics, like we had, Keynesian economics, you could call it, like we had from 1932 until 1981. And from 81 till today, we've been operating in this supply side world, this Reaganomics world that just wipes out the middle class and wipes out young people. And it's not going to change just because Bernie gets elected. It's not going to, and it's not going to not change if Joe Biden gets elected. What's going to happen is it's going to change as the consequence of individuals getting active and getting and infiltrating the Democratic Party, pushing the Democratic Party, moving things in a positive direction. So, the work is ours. So let's not despair, and let's not, on the other hand, have, false hopes of how, one person is going to magically change or ruin everything. It ain't going to work that way. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. We had a guest on earlier who was talking about the deal that Trump is trying to make with the Taliban in Afghanistan. And Professor Andrew Bacevich. And in reference to that, Dave in Federal Way, Washington, says here, you want to go back to that conversation about the Taliban?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to it. Now, it's kind of hard because both you and Colonel Bacevich are brilliant, and it was a great conversation you guys were having. But I just want to add, for thought, maybe you want to respond, maybe not, the common orthodoxy of victory, okay, how we define victory, how we comprehend victory. In the 21st century, right now, does not apply to the world's economy. Okay, and let me give you a couple examples. David Petraeus did he was the mastermind of the surge in Iraq, right?
Right.
He also simultaneously introduced money as a weapon system, this concept of money as a weapon system. Now, what we basically did is we paid, insurgent forces, terrorist forces, whatever, opposition forces. We
Right.
paid them to not kill us.
Yeah, it was called the Northern, what was the other word? Northern, but they,
you're talking.
They were the
Northern Alliance.
Northern Alliance, right? And then most of those guys were just basically opium farmers, out in the northern rural parts of Afghanistan, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah. Now, but I was referring to Iraq, but it's true about Afghanistan as well. Now, let's look at our allies. Look at Hamid Karzai. Look at Abdul Ghani. The current, who Trump recognized as the leader of Afghanistan.
Right.
These are our allies. They are not. They do want the United States to be successful, but what they're doing is they understand that. And they're charging more for us to lease property. Okay, as the economy is like a cost of living increase, right? Now, this is what Trump and Republicans, they only believe in spending money on bigger and better and more destructive weapons, all right? And basically, if we wanted a Germany, Japan, post-World War II model, all right, we have to spend exponentially to do it. Now, in order to do that, we have to have a threat that is existential. And this is where my fear of the emerging Russia, the emerging militarism of the modern Russia and the modern China worry me, because they would be an existential threat to the United States. And then when Donald Trump ominously said if the Taliban does not fight terror and abide by their terms, he is going to send a force in like the world has never seen. Now, we know that he's just bloviating, right? What that really means is he is going to bomb Afghanistan into non-existence. Right. Now, the Taliban are experts at that game. What we'll end up doing is murdering, maiming the most vulnerable of their population, where the Taliban will retreat into areas of Tank and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and all that fodder, the federally administrated tribal area of Pakistan. We'll never hit them.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it, and that's where they've been, and they're coming back from there now. It's just the whole thing from the get-go was nuts. So anyway, thank you, Dave, for your thoughts. Heather in Lansing, Michigan. Hey, Heather, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. I am not a medical professional, but it occurred to me. I was thinking back when the Wuhan virus, the coronavirus information was just starting to become mainstream, and we heard about the kid in France who was asymptomatic, but he tested positive.
Right.
So what if kids, not that they have a natural immunity, but their immune system has kind of a muscle memory, because elementary school kids have all gotten their vaccinations within, a handful of years. But us old folk haven't had regular vaccines or haven't been bombarded with vaccines in decades, right, in most cases. So our bodies don't remember how to assimilate
in reading the speculation in the science publications, and there's several that I read every day. The two main theories that I'm seeing are that young people's immune systems. One theory is that it's not the virus that kills you; it's your body's response to it. Mm-hmm. And this is, we know this already about a lot of diseases. The body fever turns on the production of the germ-killing white blood cells, the macrophages.
Sure, it's not the virus; it's the pmonia that you get from contacting the virus.
Right, or particularly if you get like a bacterial, or something like that. But and therefore, these relatively naive, is the word, immune systems that these kids have not responded to a number of coronaviruses yet. And so they don't launch a huge and overwhelming immune response, and the virus doesn't do that much damage to the body, and so it just kind of exists there for a while and then gets slowly knocked out. That's one theory, that the immune system is not acting. The other theory is that the immune system is overacting because young kids are exposed to so many coronaviruses. If you know, and any parent can tell you this, when your 2-year-old starts going into daycare, suddenly everybody in the house, everybody in the family is getting sick every other week with a brand new, variation on a head cold or a throat cold or a sore throat or whatever.
Right.
And a lot of these are coronaviruses, and so it may be that these kids have been recently infected with a bunch of coronaviruses,
Right.
and therefore when they confront this new one, the body just goes, oh, it's just another one of those.
The
So
thing
nobody
that's
knows.
throwing me, though, with that train of thought and those theories is that overwhelmingly children and elderly people are more susceptible to the annual flu.
Yes.
That goes around. More children die and are deathly ill from the flu than they seem to be getting from this particular coronavirus. So I'm wondering, how does the immunoresponse factor into the annual flu? That
Right,
we all-
and your point of, this may have something to do with vaccinations, and it might not even be the vaccines. It might be the adjuvants that they put in the vaccines, the things that are, mostly it's aluminum that is put in there to stimulate the immune response in response to the vaccine itself. I don't know how long that lasts in the body. I don't know how long it continues to stimulate the immune system. But, all this stuff is speculative right now. But, Heather, thank you. It's a thought-provoking conversation. Good talking with you. Dan in Minneapolis, listening on 950 AM. Hey, Dan, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Great to talk with you. Me and my wife, we feel the burn here in Minneapolis, so we got Bernie's back.
Cool.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. But the reason for my call is, Dr. Don and his getting a regular flu shot to fix, coronavirus is kind of like me putting diesel fuel in my car with gasoline, thinking that just because it's fuel, it should work.
Right.
But what I want to get to is the mortality rate. And I believe it's a cover-up by this administration not to test people because they already know what the number is going to look like. So if we go back to a day or two ago with 100 people being verified with the coronavirus and 6 people dying, okay, and just for simple math, globally, the mortality rate is around 2%.
Right,
So
but
that
here in the
puts
U.S. it's 6%, but that makes no sense. That what that means, because I think the actual mortality rate is probably closer to 1%, because we're just not testing everybody, and South Korea is probably going to tell us a lot.
Well, and you're right, but the other side, let's just break that down to one more area. Washington State had 18 confirmed cases. Well, all 6 of those deaths came from there. Now it's 33%.
Right, right.
When you look at it, it's like...
Which is not possible. What that means is that there's a lot of people walking around loose carrying the virus who just think that they have a bad cold.
Yeah.
In my mind. And they are spreading it, and they're spreading it to other people who may be vulnerable and may, get sick and die. And that's why we need aggressive testing. And once again, and sadly, once again, Donald Trump has known this was coming for 4 months and hasn't done a damn thing. Not a damn thing. And that, that is, in my mind, that is politically criminal.
And you're right. If somebody can be held accountable, and now he's got the anti-science guy, Mr. Pence, in there monitoring this.
Right.
And
yeah, Mike Pence thinks, he's pray the gay away. Maybe he's going to start saying we should all pray away the coronavirus. It's just crazy stuff. Dan, thank you for the call, and thank you for listening to KTNF. We'll be back. We'll be picking up more of your phone calls here. It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour. The Dow is still down. It's down 892 points. It's getting scary. We'll be back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
That tells me that the consensus on Wall Street is that the Fed is out of bullets. Because with a half-point rate cut, that should have done wonderful things for the stock market. It's Super Tuesday, and really Super Tuesday, thanks to Mike in San Francisco. He has put up a $50,000 match. Anything you donate up to $50,000 will be doubled today by Mike in San Francisco. God bless you, Mike. Thank you. This is amazing. It's a great day to make a contribution. This is going to be today and tomorrow, by the way. And that your contribution will be matched. So whatever you give, it's going to be doubled. It's also Super Tuesday, the election day, and so we're gonna see how that all plays out, and we'll certainly be talking about that tomorrow. And having conversations that, the entire conversation, it seems, on CNN and MSNBC is, what's it going to take to stop Bernie? And oh my God, and the Republic is melting down, And I think we have some reasonable and more rational conversations here and cover, things like the actual history of the Democratic Party and FDR and LBJ and let's go back to our roots and stuff like that. So anyway, please help out Free Speech TV so that we can continue these kind of conversations. Please call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help. Now is a great time to call and contribute to Free Speech TV. With a $20 gift, you get the Proud Student at Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that helps people get out the vote. I'm voting RU, and it's got the Free Speech TV logo on it. Your choice of one or the other of those with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote tote bag, which, for the next, 9 months, 8 months, is going to be pretty cool. And then after that, it's going to be one of those things that, down the road, you'll see people selling them on eBay as mementos of the 2020 election. This is going to be an historic election regardless of who the Democratic nominee is, because the Democratic nominee is going to be running against, that orange thing in the White House. With a $75 gift, you get that tag. You get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug, one of my favorites. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet where we all meet online and talk. With a $120 gift, by the way, I skipped over that and I shouldn't have. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $300 gift, there's the whole Get the Vote Out pack, the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family to let them know about, the various shows on Free Speech TV. You get the Get Out the Vote car magnet and the Just Effing Vote tote bag and my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, you get all three of my books, the whole Hidden History collection, suitable for being a gift. Every single one will have an autographed book plate in it, and great to give to friends and neighbors and relatives or birthdays. There's always gift giving opportunities coming up. That's a $360 gift to Free Speech TV, or maybe you just like to read them yourself. So I guess I was assuming that many of you already have the books, but and in which case they make great gifts. But if you haven't read them, I think you'll find them very accessible. They're small. They're about 180 pages each, and very readable. And you will learn things that you didn't know, even things that you haven't heard me talk about on this program. They're just great books. I put a lot of work into them. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us, and we'll have a meet and greet here, and then go have some lunch. So those are the premiums for the Free Speech TV drive. But the really important thing is that Free Speech TV needs you. This is Free Speech TV continues to exist and has for all these years, almost 2 decades, purely as a result of people who watch Free Speech TV saying, "Hey, I'm going to help out." And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal, and Free Speech TV is a very important television network. So, 2 things. I constantly harp on this, but I think it's really so important. Number one, tell your friends about Free Speech TV. Give them some of the Free Speech TV swag. The goodies that Free Speech TV gives away or has, or gives very, very cheap. That have, that list which channel we're on Dish and which channel we're on DirecTV, and so that people can easily find, and freespeech.org. Tell people about the website, which also will tell people how they can find Free Speech TV if they want to watch it on their television. If you know anybody who has satellite TV, if you see a satellite dish on their house, that means that they've got Dish or Direct, which means they've got free speech TV, and they probably don't know it. So spread the word. But also, please call now, 877-378-8669. Whatever you give will be doubled. Your $20 gift becomes $40. Your $50 gift becomes $100. Your $75 gift becomes $150. And, on it goes from there. So please call 877-378-8669. Let's make this a super, super Tuesday. Thanks. Coming up this week on the Science Revolution, is the coronavirus about to show us the cost of not having Medicare for all? Former health insurance executive Wendell Potter, public health professor at George Washington University Medical School Dr. Lena Wen, and author of The Coming Plague, Lori Garrett, all join me for the most up-to-date information on the now pandemic coronavirus. Don't miss it, and check it out wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. Thom Hartmann here with you. Boy, Donna Brazile. Yeah, my respect for Donna Brazile just went right through the roof. I mean, I've always liked Donna Brazile. I thought she was a very impressive person. And I was, in fact, she's been on the show a few times. I was really very favorably impressed when she wrote in her memoir about the 2016 election, basically an entire chapter apologizing to Bernie for what happened. But they had her on Fox News. Apparently earlier today, maybe this was late yesterday. It's all over Twitter. I will retweet this when I finish playing the clip. And the Fox News people, a man and a woman, Donna mentions their names. I don't know who they are because I don't watch Fox News. But anyhow, Donna was on there. They tossed to a clip of Ronna Romney McDaniel, who I believe is Mitt Romney's niece, but she's the head of the Republican Party, saying that the Democratic convention, that what was going to happen was that there wouldn't be a clear winner, and it's going to go to the Democratic convention, and there will be a brokered convention, and on the second vote, the establishment will come in, and they're going to rig this thing against Bernie. And I mean, that's literally rig it against Bernie was the phrase that she ended her little clip with. And then the host said to Donna Brazile, "What say you?" And I just have to play this for you. This is going to make your day.
On that second vote. To that, you say what, Donna? First of all, I want to talk to my Republicans. First of all, stay the hell out of our race. Stay the hell out of our race. I get sick and tired, Ed and Sandra, of listening to Republicans tell me and the Democrats about our process. First of all, they don't have a process. They're canceling primaries. They have winner take all. They don't have the kind of democracy that we see on the Democratic side. And for people to use Russian talking points to sow division among Americans, that is stupid. So, Ronna, go to hell. This is not about, go to hell. I'm tired of it, Ed. We're not trying to prevent anyone from becoming the nominee. If you have the delegates and win, you will win. This notion that somehow or another Democrats are out there trying to put hurdles or roadblocks before one candidate, that's stupid. I know what's going on. They are scared of Democrats coming together to defeat Donald Trump. They need to be focusing on what we're focusing on, the Democratic Party, and that is preventing foreign interference in our elections. Stop using Russian talking points, Madam Chairwoman.
There you go.
Period.
Yeah, there you go. Go to hell. Just amazing. I'm just going to retweet this. Right there we go. So if you want to see it, you want to hear it again, you want to play it for your friends, there you go. Oh my. Jonathan in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jonathan, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. Just wanted to talk about a few nuances about the testing for the coronavirus. If you look on the CDC website, I'm not sure if you addressed this yet, but tests for COVID-19, people have to understand that first, that this test is unapproved by the FDA. It's actually being in use based on what's called an EUA, an emergency use authorization. And the test does not detect the virus. It detects the antibodies. But the problem is that it doesn't work very well because they were having problems manufacturing the reagents that would verify the tests. So, and I am scratching my head as to precisely what this test is or how well it works. On the bottom of their website, they actually say that researchers are currently working to develop the basic parameters for the test, which will be refined.
Right.
So, and then it goes on to actually, there's a link that to solicit tests from private industry.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so Trump is trying to privatize this whole thing, and again, he sat on this for 4 months. This is just completely nuts. It's just nuts. Jonathan, thanks for the info. Stella in Seattle. Hey, Stella, what's on your mind?
Hi, I was listening to you earlier, and there was a lady on from Washington that said that she didn't think that we were testing people. Yesterday, Jay Inslee and the King County executive, Dal Constantine, and the health officer got on to I think Cairo or something, and they updated everybody on the coronavirus because it sounds like we're on ground zero of it. And we are testing people right now through the health department in King County.
Right.
He said 200 tests a day, but that's like 100 people because they do two tests for one person.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also said that next week they'll be starting to test people. The University of Washington will also start testing people at about the same capacity, so like about 100 people a day. So that's like 200 people a day that they would be able to.
Yeah, and here in Oregon, we have we've been informed that we have the capacity to test 80 people a day, and there's a total of 1,500 test kits available to the state. Again, this is, these test kits should have been around in December, in January. I mean,
Yes,
this is just so wrong. Stella, thank you for the call and for the information. Kurt in Los Angeles. Hey, Kurt, what's up?
Hey, Tom, thanks for taking my call. Listening to your program this morning made me want to suggest that I think we all need to write and call our congressmen and governor and state reps and demand emergency funding for the test kits for respirators. I think price controls. I think we're at the point where, they shouldn't be able to gouge for face masks and sanitizer.
Yep.
And then look at what Governor Cuomo's done this morning. I don't want to quote exactly, but apparently he's asked the Department of Insurance to require the insurance companies to waive any copay when people go into
That's correct.
Emergency rooms.
Yep. And I mean, so individual states are starting to do things, and that's great. Jay Inslee in Washington, our governor here in Oregon, that's Kate Brown, right? I should know. And you've got in California, you've got a governor who's on top of this thing. But again, this should have been handled by the federal government 3 months ago. I mean, it was no secret that this was coming. Kitty in Delray Beach, Florida. Hey, Kitty, what's up? Thanks for listening to Sirius XM.
Always, I appreciate you. So in Florida, what we do when we go fishing is we wear something called a fishing vest, and it protects your skin from the sun. And, they say that the masks won't protect you from the virus, but it stops kids from putting their hands all in their nose and their mouth.
It's called a fishing mask, did you say? M-A-S-K?
No, buff, B-U-F-F.
Oh, okay.
A fishing buff. It's kind of like a scarf. It's UV protection and all that, but if you don't have masks and, you have kids and you don't want your kids to be putting their hands in their mouth or, you're weary in public, if you could still get a whole bunch of them. They're like $9 on Amazon, and you pull them up over your face, and it actually protects way more of your face than a mask would. So that's like a little tip for people if they're really worried and they have children, they don't want their kids touching their face. Again, I know that it's not going to stop a virus from going through it, but I think it is some measure.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is to make your own hand sanitizer. You could get aloe vera and mix it up with alcohol, and there's your hand sanitizer.
Right.
So
And my understanding is 1/3 aloe vera liquid and 2/3 isopropyl alcohol, which you could buy for like $3. Although our local Costco here in Portland was totally sold, or the Target rather, was completely sold out day before yesterday. Oh, Sean has a bottle right there. So we're using, you can also take a piece of paper towel and moisten it with isopropyl alcohol and wipe down surfaces and things like that. So, all good stuff. Kitty, thank you very much for that. It's great to hear from you. Ron in Wichita Falls, Texas. Hey, Ron, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I was a public health nurse for a few years a while back, and yesterday you were talking about tuberculosis and how the TB test tells us whether you have it or not, and that's actually incorrect.
It tells you whether you've been exposed to it or not.
Actually been exposed to any of about 1,000 different mycobacterium.
Oh, really?
The chest X-ray and blood work are needed to confirm that it's actually active TB.
I see. Okay.
And then
so this is basically a flag that you need to go to the next step.
Exactly. It's really a misnomer to call it a test. It's not really a test.
Yeah.
It's an indicator.
Okay.
And the bacteria for tuberculosis can be locked up in tissues in the body for years before presenting with any symptoms.
Yeah.
It's the only disease that in the United States you can actually be detained if you refuse treatment.
Yeah.
They have a place in San Antonio where they hold these folks until they comply with treatment and are cleared.
Right, and those laws go way, way back. And now, according to the World Health Organization, 2 of the TB hotspots right now are New York and Los Angeles. And a lot of this is concentrated in homeless and very poor populations, and it just shouldn't be. If we had a national healthcare system, nobody has died of the coronavirus in Canada, although they've got a bunch of detected cases up there. Everybody has access to healthcare.
Also, the test itself is not positive if it's red. You look for induration under the skin, which often can't be seen but can be detected using a blunt pen-like object.
Okay. All right, Ron. Thanks for the details.
Of it, actually.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Good to hear from you, Bob in Buckeye, Arizona. Hey, Bob. What's up?
Hey, just a quick statement, and it's off topic from the corona thing. I was wondering if you were aware.
We're talking about Super Tuesday too.
Right. Yeah. Well, Texas closed down 542 polling locations in disproportionately high Latinx and Black areas of the state.
Oh, this is what Brian Kemp did in Georgia. He closed a whole bunch of polling places in Black neighborhoods. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, the Supreme Court, when they blew up Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, basically handed to the Republican-controlled states the ability to play these kind of games. Is there a place where I can find verification of what you're asserting, Bob?
The Guardian.
The Guardian. Okay, I'll check it out. Bob, thanks a lot for the call.
Arizona's the same way. We had our county recorder close down a bunch of them last year. So.
Yeah. I mean, the only way Republicans can win elections anymore is by cheating. That's what it comes down to, because Americans have figured out what a scam the GOP is. Thanks for the call, Bob.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archive.
And I'm still waiting for some Republican to explain to me why in 2000 they flipped the American star, the 5-pointed star, upside down into the satanic star for the GOP logo. And welcome back. Charles in Prescott Valley, Arizona. Hey, Charles, thanks for watching Free Speech. What's up?
Yeah, hi. I just want to remark on, the cut as short as possible on a previous caller, and I'm sure this it didn't come across correctly to me, but it does significantly matter who we choose as president. Bernie would provide the most powerful focus as a kind of a spark plug to encourage the participation of citizens instead of the billionaires.
I absolutely agree.
Maintaining
it's why I support Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, I agree. But when I was pushing back on this guy, he was basically saying if Joe Biden becomes the nominee, we should all just leave the country. And I'm saying even if Joe Biden is the nominee, we are not without agency. We are not lost. There are still things we can do, and we can still push the Democratic Party in the right direction. And frankly, it's been moving in that direction very rapidly, in large part thanks to Bernie Sanders over the last 5 years, and is going to continue moving back toward its FDR LBJ roots. And that, in my mind, is a very, very good thing that we need to be pushing for. Charles, thanks for the call. David in Spotswood, New Jersey. Hey, David, what's up?
Hi. I read something on CNBC today by Jim Cramer.
Mm-hmm.
He said specifically that the rate cut astounded him and surprised him, and that he thought it's worse than he had thought, and the market went down. I read that in the Global Monitor by Yanis Varoufakis. He specifically said in the book, when the Fed cuts the rate, it's going to have a counterintuitive effect because of the wealth effect. And people are going to say, wow, it must be worse than I thought, and the market's going to sell off.
Well, it was a big, if I caught the news correctly this morning, and I haven't, frankly, had the time to go in and read a good detailed story about the rate cut, but what I thought I heard on television this morning was that it was a half a point cut. Is that 50 or 500 basis points? I guess that would be 50 basis points, right? Yeah, and yes. So that's a large cut.
Yeah, yes, but
so that's what Jim Cramer was saying. A cut this large, means that they're freaked out. Is that essentially what he was saying? That they're frightened?
Well, yeah, but he was saying it was because of the wealth effect. In other words, low interest rates are propping up the market. People you can't buy a CD and retire on it anymore. You're forced to go into the stock market,
right.
And that creates wealth effect. When the stock market is up, everybody feels good and spends. He said that specifically when the Fed cuts, people are going to freak and say, wow, it must be worse than I thought.
Right.
When it's supposed to raise the market because people are supposed to have less alternatives other than stocks, and they're supposed to sell off bonds and go back into the market.
Right.
And it's not going to work. As he said, people would freak. And the exact quote that Jim Cramer had on CNBC is what Yanis Varoufakis wrote in his book, The Global Monitor, and he wrote it 10 years ago.
Interesting. Yeah, my sense of it is that cutting interest rates, if you have supply problems and you have demand problems, if people are not buying things because they're concerned about, even going to the store, and companies are not able to manufacture goods because they can't get parts, reducing interest rates so companies can borrow money or so the consumers can borrow money to spend is not going to stimulate the economy. And I think that that's what we're seeing right now. I think what we're seeing is that the Fed has reached the end of their rope. And Thursday, I'm really looking forward to talking to Richard Wolff about all this stuff. It's a very, very interesting time to be alive. We'll be right back. It's 10 minutes, coming up on 10 minutes before the hour.
The tide, are they beholden to, how does that work?
My understanding is that when you are in the race and an election happens, that the delegates that you get are basically like cards in your hand. They're essentially your property. And where I got this notion was from this conversation I had 2 weeks ago that I talked about here on this program, where an old friend of ours who's a member of the DNC and is, he's actually on the rules committee for the convention, and he's also head of a very large progressive organization. He's a solid Bernie guy, and he said that if Bernie doesn't have the 50% plus one number of delegates going into the convention, and Elizabeth Warren stays in the race so that she will continue to accumulate some delegates, if the combined number of the two of them is greater than 50%, at that point, Bernie and Warren, and this is not a conversation he had with Bernie that he was telling me about, this was just his theory, that at that point, Bernie and Warren would have the same conversation that Obama and Clinton had in 2008, where Obama needed Clinton's delegates. He offered her the VP slot. She turned that down and said, I'd rather be Secretary of State. And he got her delegates and he became the nominee. So that's one possible scenario. What I don't know, and we'll ask Mark Pocan about tomorrow, is what happens to, Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg are going to get votes here on Super Tuesday. I mean, there's millions and millions of people all across the country who've already voted. And whether those delegates will be assigned to them after the fact, or whether those delegates go into some sort of weird pool, or whether those delegates can be claimed by Joe Biden. I don't know the answer to that question, and I look forward to Mark Pocan's going to be with us in the first hour of the show tomorrow, taking our calls, and so I'm looking forward to finding out. So have I answered your question to the best I can here, Lindsay?
Yeah, and I look forward to that tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for the call, and thanks for listening to Sirius XM. Carol in Seattle. Hey, Carol, what's up? No, Carol. Robert in Grayslake, Illinois. Hey, Robert, what's on your mind?
I want to make a comment about the coronavirus. First, I want to say it was nice seeing you at the Frugal Muse in Darien this past Sunday.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for showing up.
Back on the coronavirus, I want to suggest, a lot of people are saying that Trump is incompetent, which is clearly true about a lot of things. But I kind of want to offer a sort of nefarious view of this. Mm-hmm. Being that the Republican Party is very, very racist, I could see in his twisted mind that he sees this as kind of a way to kind of damage people of color who are much who are poorer and have worse health care. And I know that that's a really nefarious, vicious thing, but I would not put it past Trump to be sitting in his, jammy.
I don't think his thinking is that sophisticated, Robert. But God only knows. God only knows. Thank you for the call, Barbara in Seattle. Hey, Barbara, what's up?
Well, there's two things, but the first thing is that everybody should watch the DVD. Get the DVD, Eleanor, and it's
about Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes, and it tells you how the only person, when she died, the NSC took over, and Truman's grandson said that his grandfather, did not regret dropping the nuclear bomb, but he regretted signing the NSC, because ever since then, we've essentially had the intelligence agencies, the CIA, take over our foreign policy.
Yeah.
And
there's a really good biography of the Dulles brothers that it largely makes that same point.
But there's even a better book.
Yeah.
Al McCoy, page 39, in The Shadows of the American Century. Page 39, it says what Mark Twain said about empire. And it's all got the page at the bottom of the page about Biden.
Yeah. But I will check it out. Barbara, thank you for the call. Well, it's Super Tuesday. We'll see what happens. We'll be discussing it tomorrow. Congressman Mark Pocan, the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, will be with us in the first hour to take your calls for the hour. And so be there, be square, and we'll continue our conversations tomorrow. Thanks so much for being with us today. And don't forget, democracy isn't a spectator sport. It requires you, and it also requires information. So please tell your friends how to find progressive media. There's all kinds of ways to get this show and a lot of other great progressive media out there. So tell your friends. Tag You're It. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
Well, it's Super Tuesday, and it's a really super Tuesday, thanks to Mike in San Francisco. He has put up a $50,000 match. Anything you donate up to $50,000 will be doubled today by Mike in San Francisco. God bless you, Mike. Thank you. This is amazing. It's a great day to make a contribution. This is going to be today and tomorrow, by the way, and that your contribution will be matched. So whatever you give, it's going to be doubled. It's also Super Tuesday, the election day, and so we're gonna see how that all plays out, and we'll certainly be talking about that tomorrow. And having conversations that, the entire conversation, it seems, on CNN and MSNBC is, well, what's it going to take to stop Bernie? And oh my God, and the Republic is melting down, And I think we have some reasonable and more rational conversations here and cover, things like the actual history of the Democratic Party and FDR and LBJ and let's go back to our roots and stuff like that. So anyway, please help out Free Speech TV so that we can continue these kind of conversations. Please call now. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. 877-378-8669. Free Speech TV needs your help. Now is a great time to call and contribute to Free Speech TV. With a $20 gift, you get the Proud Student at Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker or the car magnet that helps people get out the vote. I'm voting RU, and it's got the Free Speech TV logo on it. Your choice of one or the other of those with a $20 gift. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote tote bag, which, for the next, 9 months, 8 months, is going to be pretty cool. And then after that, it's going to be one of those things that, down the road, you'll see people selling them on eBay as mementos of the 2020 election. This is going to be an historic election, regardless of who the Democratic nominee is, because the Democratic nominee is going to be running against, that orange thing in the White House. With a $75 gift, you get that tag. You get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug, one of my favorites. With a $240 gift, there's the virtual meet and greet where we all meet online and talk. With a $120 gift, by the way, I skipped over that and I shouldn't have. With a $120 gift, you get an autographed copy of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. With a $300 gift, there's the whole Get the Vote Out pack, the set of Free Speech TV host postcards to send to friends and family to let them know about, the various shows on Free Speech TV. You get the Get Out the Vote car magnet and the Just Effing Vote tote bag and my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, autographed by the author. With a $360 gift, you get all three of my books, the whole Hidden History collection, suitable for being a gift. They every single one will have an autographed book plate in it, and great to give to friends and neighbors and relatives or birthdays. There's always gift giving opportunities coming up. That's a $360 gift to Free Speech TV, or maybe you just like to read them yourself. So I guess I was assuming that many of you already have the books, but and in which case they make great gifts. But if you haven't read them, I think you'll find them very accessible. They're small. They're about 180 pages each, and very readable. And you will learn things that you didn't know, even things that you haven't heard me talk about on this program. They're just great books. I put a lot of work into them. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out with us, and we'll have a meet and greet here, and then go have some lunch. So those are the premiums for the Free Speech TV drive. But the really important thing is that Free Speech TV needs you. This is Free Speech TV continues to exist and has for all these years, almost 2 decades, purely as a result of people who watch Free Speech TV saying, "Hey, I'm going to help out." And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal, and Free Speech TV is a very important television network. So, 2 things. I constantly harp on this, but I think it's really so important. Number one, tell your friends about Free Speech TV. Give them some of the Free Speech TV swag. The goodies that Free Speech TV gives away or has, or gives very, very cheap. that have, that list which channel we're on Dish and which channel we're on DirecTV, and so that people can easily find, and freespeech.org. I mean, tell people about the website, which also will tell people how they can find Free Speech TV if they want to watch it on their television. If you know anybody who has satellite TV, if you see a satellite dish on their house, that means that they've got Dish or Direct, which means they've got Free Speech TV, and they probably don't know it. So spread the word. But also, please call now, 877-378-8669. Whatever you give will be doubled. Your $20 gift becomes $40, your $50 gift becomes $100, your $75 gift becomes $150, and on it goes from there. So please call 877-378-8669. Let's make this a super Tuesday.